and then I saw you there as well.
No, I just got here. Just got
Right
here.
on. DeFreak, I am looking up Isaiah right now. Genesis, Exodus, Isaiah. Okay. Kind of in the middle. Go ahead, guys. I'm looking up something.
Oh, I just made my escape there. So did I miss any big challengers showing up or
No. Everybody accepts me as the most significant religious figure of their life.
do you know that the very first internet debate I was ever involved in, the very first panelverse debate was on virtually this exact same topic, and DeFreak was on the panel. Can you believe that?
Wow.
So we've come full circle here. That was on Gen X Jeff's panel, and I was debating Denison on free will. And I actually deployed an argument that I had learned from our fellow down in the chat made by Jim Bob, believe it or not. And it froze Denison real good. But anyways, are you going to take us through, Flo, because there seems to be a little bit of an attitude change there.
Yeah, just
something's motivated you.
Yeah, so I don't know something. I had a vision. Actually, I've been sick for a while, and last night, in between sort of waking up periodically to take a piss and have a fever, I don't know, this thought just popped in my head. So here I am.
And it seems to have been impactful.
What do you mean? Go on.
Well, it seems to me like your demeanor around this topic is slightly more motivated than it was before your sickness or before your hiatus.
I guess I just sort of do things without thinking about them. So I guess that's yet to be determined.
Did you give the thesis yet? Like you made the statement that you can destroy everybody because why?
Because all of these monotheistic, requiring salvation from sin religions are built on the premise that God is created everything, God is all good, yet somehow here we are with sin needing salvation. So the obvious logic error here is, if God's all good and he created everything, how could sin get in at all? It would be impossible.
So let's see if we can draw Big Mouth up here out of chat. I'll try and argue it from his perspective if I can.
Well,
and
do you have an argument from your own perspective?
No, I don't, because my argument is the same as yours. There has to be a certain amount of we're talking about how the universe was created or how reality was created.
Correct.
We have to at some point say that we have some uncertainty around these issues, and we have to accept that.
Of course.
Right? And this is the answer. That's the real answer. But what I have heard argued is that what you are saying, Flo, is you're arguing from personal incredulity. What you're saying is, since the universe isn't created the way that you would like to have had it created, that means that it's fundamentally flawed. You're using your own position to justify the
you as in that. That's what I'm saying. Other people are doing.
But what would you do if that was turned back on you? So basically, you're saying if the world.
I'm just looking accurate at saying. No, this has nothing to do with my preference. It just is what it is. It's mathematical. God is all good, right? Nobody who I ask that to who's religious ever denies that, right? God is all good. That's a starting input. God created everything. Another starting input. Therefore, everything after that has to be good. It would be impossible for there to be bad in that output, unless one of the underlying beliefs, one of the inputs is wrong. One of the inputs would have to change.
Well, here's the thing. Are you saying that if God were good and God created the universe, that there would only be things that we interpreted as good? Are you saying the
No,
fact that not good
I'm
things
speaking of
disqualifies him?
I'm speaking of the objective good, like Lucas was trying to do earlier, which is another issue, right? Can we even do that? Um,
Yeah.
but no, if objectively in God's eyes, God is good and God created everything, then either all of creation is good in God's eyes, or
Yeah.
else God's not all powerful. Because that would
So,
mean that something would have had to interject evil against God's will or wish.
so you're taking the position that everything in creation is good then, or it
Correct.
disqualifies God.
Correct.
Okay.
And that even the things that we experience as bad are good. We don't need to understand everything. I think there's a little bit of humility required there. That the more devout the person, the more issue they have with that.
Everything you're
Okay.
saying, everything you're saying is actually true. And the thing is, for us, is we just have to realize that all that good is personified in the person of Jesus Christ. That's what it boils down to.
What does that mean?
Also, what does that mean? It means that.
And DeFreak, I first before like anything happened, this conversation goes further. Thank you for always being a good faith participant in these discussions. I never feel like you're being deceptive or malicious, so I do appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Also, in the back chat, there's a link to a time-stamped audio version of the Book of Melchizedek, Chapter 2, which actually seems to have the answer to the questions that you have. It starts a little slow, but once it starts rolling in, it's like it's.
Well, I didn't mean
powerful.
to. I didn't mean to stop you from your own thoughts.
Yeah. Basically, we have to understand the authority of Jesus Christ and what it meant when he actually was crucified and rose from the dead. That's the point that we're accepted into the kingdom of God.
Well, but I reject the claim that we need salvation.
Well,
why would we need salvation?
Well, according to the Book of Melchizedek, Chapter 2, basically Lucifer got bored with the knowledge of the light and went into the darkness and basically almost completely destroyed creation until Jesus Christ.
Was that because God wanted him to do that, or because God didn't know about it, or how does this paradigm come into existence?
He knew it just had to be, played out.
Okay. I'm not
So
sure.
can I make an assumption, Flo, that DeFreak has already totally lost your interest virtually? Like, no, because I can sense it, right? I'm accurate, aren't I?
Yeah.
So there are assumptions being made
I was actually
in his.
just depositing a check.
Or at least that answer wasn't satisfactory, right? Is that what you heard? To Flo.
Well,
Yes.
there's so much that you have to assume is accurate and true in order to accept that answer, right? I mean, it makes that answer would not even make sense to a ton of people in the world. They wouldn't even understand it.
Yeah,
and I think I get it, DeFreak. What I'm saying is if I understood Flo's opening statement, what he's saying is that, and please cut me off, Flo, if I've misunderstood this. What he's saying is that a lot of this argumentation that's happening is overly complex, and sometimes it's obfuscating the actual issue. Have you ever heard cult members talk about their cult leaders? They will use very specific language, like Scientologists will use specific language, and you'll get drawn into these debates that make absolutely no sense to anybody but them, and they're totally off base, right?
Because they're using specific vernacular as per that religion, or concepts as per that ideology, which is AKA religion, and it means something completely different to the rest of us.
And sometimes it doesn't mean anything to them either, quite frankly. But
the whole thing is obtuse. How do you explain a completely obtuse concept that lacks concreteness of any kind that we can see, feel, taste, touch, anything tangible, and is faith-based? How do you explain something like that with words that are ineffable? And then the words that you do have are also obtuse and can mean many different things in many situations. So it's like compound problems, even trying to understand each other.
Maybe I can take a crack at it, Flo.
Okay, yeah, and did you so? Hold on.
Yep.
The problem is the freak is expecting Flo to do internal critique, but Flo stays external. Does anybody understand?
I just want you to watch the video. Like,
I how about this, the freak? I will watch the video, but I'm not going to play it right now during the stream.
Mm.
Is that satisfying to you?
Well,
This is
I
a
think
3
it's
hour and
but, you
15
know.
minute video.
Well, no, it's only 15 minutes. The part chapter 2, timestamp at 7 minutes.
Go ahead, Joseph. I'll put the link in the main chat if anybody wants to follow that. Go ahead, Joseph.
So you're saying that since God is all good, why would he put evil in the world? So it doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, because so the religious perspective is that good and bad or good and evil are absolute realities as determined by God. Right. This is
The
good.
supposition with some people, not all. We don't all agree with that. So even arguing about it hurts your head, you know.
But all monotheistic people do seem to agree. I've never met one who says, I believe in a creator God and there is no good or evil. Right? Like that's sort
I've
of
met some that don't believe in the omniscience and omnipotence of a God. For example, there's a guy in chat that says nature's my God.
But Flo, wouldn't an entailment be or of good and evil be free will? And you don't really subscribe to free will, right?
I subscribe to, I do actually. I think that we all do personally in our lives. I think that our behavior demonstrates that we all believe in free will. I don't think free will is allowed to exist in a paradigm in which God is all knowing and knows ahead of time.
That's what I mean. So like all right. So you don't believe in that paradigm is what you're saying?
I don't believe in that paradigm, but I can do an internal critique and argue within it. My question to Jim Bob would be, why do the internal critiques always have to be internal to the Christian perspective? I'm not necessarily trying to destroy anybody's belief system. We all have a similar paradigm in that we can all understand statements, claims, simple things that are self-contradicting, right? Like the need for salvation out of the creation of a perfect being. And if somebody refuses to leave their paradigm long enough to join me in a common paradigm, then that's their own rejection of truth. It's
Sure.
not because I'm not being generous.
I'm just trying to understand what your point of view. So are you saying if in your view of the Christian paradigm that God is all good, which means he can't do anything that would create a bad scenario?
Correct. If God is all good, then yes, then that would mean necessitate all of his creation is all good, or else there's another force that is more powerful than God.
But
So
then wouldn't that negate free will?
Yeah.
So it seems like a contradiction.
Wouldn't that negate free will? Yes.
Right.
Yes. I'm answering both ways. So yes, God is all good. Right.
And that's true.
And then the other is God is all good, but is not all powerful. Right. Which would explain the introduction of evil into the universe.
Joseph, do you get that Flo is answering the question from two different perspectives, not necessarily giving you his own view? See, what you're trying to do, I think, is corner him, and it's not working because he's coming at it from two different. He's looking at the issue from both sides.
It's the same
Does that
thing that
make
keeps
sense?
happening. The debate in
That's fine. I'm not trying to corner him. I'm just trying to understand where he's coming
Yeah,
from.
well, first of all, Joseph, yeah, you are. So, Flo State, can I ask you a couple of questions?
I'm not.
I don't think that Joseph is. He just has something of that demeanor to to his question.
No, I get I
Question was
get it.
timing.
I get it. I'll even drop down quite quick because I just have a couple and I've seen this so many times. One of the things that frustrates me is when speech patterns and behavior patterns are obvious, and then it's like, well, no, the guy's not really doing that. So here's my question, Flo. Is there room in your current belief system for some form of God?
Yes, but not. But
Is
not.
there, yes, is
not-
there room in your belief system for a direction, a purpose to existence?
Yes.
Is that purpose in, if you had to lay money, if you had to lay the chips down, is that purpose good? Or does that even make sense? Is that term irrelevant?
I think that term. Yes, both ways. It is relevant if we're speaking of it from our perspective, right? But it is irrelevant if we're trying to use good, as religious people frequently do, universally as a big metaphysical concept.
I get it. And that might be more about our limitations around what good actually means or morality actually means. So
I
would
think
you
that
say,
good is hubristic. I think that good is frequently people's selfish preferences being put on display. I mean, what can appeal to somebody's narcissism more than saying God agrees with what you like? That's got to appeal to the worst in everybody.
Are you a hedonist?
No, but I've dabbled in it.
Yes.
Yes, am I?
It's interesting that to hear Christians argue and to hear agnostic people or people that are scientifically oriented or skeptical. Usually the religious people have a very limited choice. Either this is better or this is better. Those two choices. You either believe in this or you believe in that. But the people who are able to discuss it in a way where their mind's not fully set, they cannot know or do not know yet, they are not definitively clear. They can say, hey, it can be more than just A or B. God exists or he doesn't. What if God is a thing? You know, what, like this guy said, what if God is nature? What if it's like a transcendentalist kind of theory where it's in everything that's a living being? You know, they're able to think less linearly. And to me, that favors an open argument rather than just shutting someone down by simply saying, yes, you're right, or yes, you're wrong. No, you're going to hell, and I'm sure of it, and here's why. Absolutely no flexibility in the conversation because they're so already convinced. And that's the problem that I had with Lucas from the previous stream. He would give me an or someone else, an and or. And then I5 did the same. Same thing. He said, well, would you rather have, you know, he gave an example that wasn't, it was a faulty parallel.
so
And he
here's
said,
a question along a related line, Lindsay, and I'll ask both you and Flo. And I've heard it used as a justification for religion by some. What if it's better to believe in something like that, even if it is wrong? Would it be better to believe in the productive lie than the destructive truth?
it's up to the individual.
I disagree with the paradigm. Sorry, go ahead.
See, there's the other thing. Flo thinks there's a third option or a fourth one or a fifth one.
No,
But
but
if
I've
I'm
heard
only
Flo,
given, if I'm only given those two options because that's what you asked me and that's what you would like me to
no,
answer.
that and Flo understands the question too. I heard him address it in the beginning. You wouldn't want we've talked about this. You wouldn't want to believe a lie, would you? You wouldn't want to live a
If
lie,
I'm
even
making an
if you
important
knew.
decision, I don't want lies. I don't care how beautiful they are because I want to make the best decision for everyone and or for me alone. With
To
a
an
bunch of
extent.
lies, you know, how am I going to vote for the correct president, for example, or how am I going to make an educated decision, or how am I going to know who's right for the job? So yeah, I mean, there's a good and bad to both. You're saving yourself by believing the beautiful lie or the lie you want to hear, but in the end, really, you're doing yourself a genuine disservice. You're not operating in reality, and people say truth is important and reality is important to them. Those are the same thing, two different peas in a pod, you know. So if you're talking about my ability to make a sound, knowledgeable, great decision, whether it's buying a house or am I going to believe in God? It doesn't matter what the decision is. I want the truth. But when you put it in an overall collectivist way, like, would you guys rather have a truth, even if you know it's, a falsity, even if you know it's not really true, like say the things that people believe about heaven is not true, but it sure feels good and it sure feels allays the fears you have about life. Wouldn't you prefer, what would be wrong with that? To live that way, to live positively and to think there's a heaven. That feels good. In a way, there is nothing wrong with that. It would encourage you to do good things, right?
I don't
But-
think that we lie to ourselves well enough to pull that off effectively.
I think it would injure you too. And I think we're masters of denial and delusion. We pull it off very well.
Do you think people who have faith are the faith is based on a lie that they know deep down?
I do.
I think we cannot know definitively, but I
You do, Flo?
am talking over Flo here.
You think everybody who has faith in some
I
sort of
think that, and I'm going to attack Christianity specifically because I'm more familiar with it, but I think that when you have built into a religion things that are self-contradictory by definition, like the Trinity, for instance, that yes, people understand that they are agreeing to something that is impossible by definition, and then they train themselves to psychologically just walk over it without letting it bother them. That's self-brainwashing, and I think that that's if you believe in evil, one of the more evil things you can train somebody to do themselves.
So do you think, Flo, in the end, these people that are doing that are cognizant of that lie? Do you think that somewhere deep
No.
inside, if you dug deep enough, they would admit, yeah, I really actually don't believe this myself?
that
Correct.
was my question, old Joe.
Yes, I do
Interesting.
believe that. I believe
think
that.
agree.
I think people can come to faith pretty logically, and actually believe. Like faith isn't knowing, but have a true, genuine faith that's not based on a lie, not where you're compartmentalizing deep down.
Well, you asked us if there's anything wrong with it. And even if I or someone else of a different religion or an atheist or someone does not agree with your religion, it's your right to believe what you want to believe. And no, I don't think it's a bad thing in and of itself. It's what people can do with it. I thought Lucas was a nice guy. I can't imagine him, subject to the throes of passion or eating an ice cream cone, getting all over the place. I mean, I think he's extremely rigid and can't let go. Okay, there's an honest truth right there. It's not very nice, not very flattering to me. Maybe it would be a good quality to him. But I see him as so restrained and so restricted of himself and others that he's unable to sort of, I don't know, manipulate around the world in a good job. Maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he doesn't care. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I think it becomes a burden rather than an asset when you use it so much that I found him to be likable. And I'm just saying, until he told the rest of us we're going to hell because we weren't Calvinists or whatever the case was. And that's when I thought, no, that's going too far. You go be Mormon, you go be Seventh-day Adventist, you go do your thing. You believe in God, you believe in science or the earth, whatever you want. It's not really hurting it.
I think he played his hand pretty well when he said that, would you be okay with your preacher swearing in service? Which basically is just saying he thinks it sounds trashy.
Well,
So
yeah,
Joseph,
he's too
do you
rigid
think-
linear.
Where's the mortal sin in that?
Joseph, do you think faith is sacred? Do you think having integrity in your faith, being honest about your faith, do you think that's a sacred value?
I think it's an integral part of the faith. Without it, it becomes moot.
I'm exploring this issue of faith, because it seems to be quite important in the Christian faith, just the concept of faith itself. And it's an
Sure.
interesting question that you asked. Do these people believe or not? So if you turn out to be one of these people that says you're faithful, but actually don't believe, I wonder what level of sin that is, or what how sacrilegious that actually is in the end.
I'm not
I
sure.
think there's
I can
actually
only-
a difference between doubt and not believing. Like you can believe, but then if you have a little bit of doubt, that's different.
I
That makes
think
sense.
it's Well, I can speak for me personally, but I tried to get to faith growing up in the Lutheran church. That's kind of the route you're steered towards. And I never really had it, tried towards it. And it wasn't until I got older till I actually had faith in something beyond myself. And it's
Are you
true,
Christian?
but I know what it's like to not have it be true. And that's why I ask, because a lot of people do think it's all bullshit, like I once did.
It's
Well,
completely
wasn't
up to you, Joe.
what was that? Sorry.
It's completely up to you. Do you want to throw something that represents sanctity and your opinion to you and to your heart and your insides and throw pearls to swine and tell them all about it and let them critique it? Or do you want to take something like that and do you want to be honest and put forth true reasoning and not filter everything you're saying to please other people, but to speak the truth? I mean, both of them could be right. Both of them.
Hey,
up to
Joseph,
you.
are you Christian?
Hmm?
I was wondering, is Joseph Christian?
I wouldn't call myself a Christian. I wouldn't say Christians are wrong, but I wouldn't. I don't live a. Yeah, I wouldn't call myself a Christian. Put it that
All right.
way.
The thing is with a lot of these quote unquote Christians, just ask them if they're saved. And, whenever I do that, I get the answers just are baffling to me, because most of them don't even know if they're saved.
Yeah, well, how would you? I don't have much interest in debates of religion v. religion. The only thing I really like is atheist versus believers. That's what's interesting to me.
Say that again.
I'm not so much interested as apologetics, Muslim versus Christian or any other insert here. I'm more interested in debates between atheists, non-believers, and people who do believe in God. That's where I find the interesting conversation.
I agree.
You
I
always
find
end up in
the
epistemology.
interreligion debates can get quite technical and it's hard to stay in them. If you're arguing Protestant against Catholic against whoever else, or Muslim against, well, like say a Muslim against a Christian is a little more interesting. But like Jewish against Christian, stuff like that, I have a harder time staying into those ones.
Yeah, I'm
Agreed.
more so interested in the apologetics of a specific religion, just to understand where they're coming from and their views. But beyond that, I'll watch it every once in a while. But
I think that this discussion that's going on about objective truth is pretty fascinating. So, Flo,
In the
you've kind of,
chat.
well, have you kind of, are you saying now that objective truth is probably not something that exists?
I haven't thought this all the way through, but right now it seems like it's not. What is objective truth? Well, what is truth? Truth is a characteristic of another thing. Truth doesn't exist in a vacuum. You can't say, "Oh, here's some truth. This tastes
That's
like
exactly
truth."
what I just said.
Collaborated
Sorry.
facts.
I was distracted by the chat.
Yeah. I have feelings on this, but you would say that it's, what is it? Would the facts that we know or the things that we know then be a construction, a collaboration between minds?
Jim Bob, sorry, I didn't hear the question because I was
No,
reading.
go ahead.
Jim Bob is
Deal with
saying
Jim
that's an
Bob.
absolute. That's a statement. Correct. That's a defining statement. So, can you make a statement that's, like saying X is red or red is real, right? These are just sort of, it's just self-referencing, right? X is X. Can you make a statement with two objects? Apples are red. Blue is crunchy. Something like that with two nouns in it. That is an absolute claim. Otherwise, all you're doing is just sort of referencing and identifying, right? Calculator, pencil, check. Okay. Go ahead, guy.
I think that's a more interesting discussion that you guys are having.
Well, I wish, and I know that Not Men never gets on panels. That's a second order proposition.
what do
Okay.
you What do you mean by truth? Like just being correct?
Well,
Something's
and
absolutely correct? Like
that's
Joseph.
all I think that truth is. Are We Not Men and Jim Bob are trying to claim that there's absolute truth, this thing called absolute truth. I don't know what the fuck that would be. So I'm inviting them to make a statement that is absolutely true. And truth is absolute, is what Jim Bob said. But that's
Mhm.
again sort of just self-defining, right? That's like saying lighter is. Okay, yes, lighter is. You
They're
would have to
talking
change.
about, excuse me, go ahead.
No,
I'm
no,
interrupting.
I was rambling. You go ahead.
Well, they're talking about the same epistemological battle that it usually ends up in every religious debate there ever was when we talk about it. We being all the people here that you see again and again and again, which is, well, the this religion claims this and the Jewish people claim that and then the Muslim people claim this. Well, how do you know that's true? And it comes down to, well, the Bible, that was written by illiterate scribes and I can prove that it wasn't, and then it's a battle, and then you go back and forth, and you eventually come to the epistemological question of, well, what is real? What is solid and absolute? And that's when I picked up this bowl at my desk, and I said, can you prove without a doubt that this bowl exists, or that it's not just my perception?
Can you just
And
ASMR us a little more?
so along with what Flo was saying, they're saying that definitively there exists some claim that you can say where even the person who doubts I have this bowl in my hand, even though you can hear it, somebody else will argue it's there. And then the atheist is asking, how do you know?
But I think that skips over the whole process of, we understand that certain there's a priority for what is more and less reliable information sources, right? First-hand
Depending on the
information
person you
trumps
ask.
second-hand.
Yeah, subjective.
Well, first-hand over second-hand over third-hand, immediate over distant.
Every single one of us.
But I think that's the thing that gets lost, is that people don't acknowledge the fact that obviously first-hand information is better than second-hand information. That takes all the holy books and puts them at a disadvantage.
Right. It does.
And welcome Nobleness, and welcome Jim Bob.
Thanks, Flo. You guys are having a good conversation tonight. I thought I'd jump on.
Good deal. I appreciate it. Any thoughts?
A lot, but that takes a bit if you want to hear it.
All right, hold on to it for a second. Jim Bob, where were we at? Mic check. I can't hear Jim Bob.
Like, what's the difference between truth and absolute truth? Aren't they the same thing?
I don't know that I understand what absolute truth is. I'm starting to think it doesn't exist.
So the term, would you see any difference between the term absolute truth and objective truth?
I think that truth is objective, and that it's something that is independent of the observer's desires. I don't think there is absolute truth, right? Apples are red unless you have a green apple. So the variables can always be, the variable of the claim can always be changed so that the statement is false. You can say
have
there's
a
feeling.
red apple in your hand, and that's absolutely true.
Jim Bob got feedback. Let me tinker with it. Mic check. I think it's all right. Because truth is a quality or a characteristic of a claim, it can't be universal or whatever, unending. There is no, I don't know, maybe Jim Bob can explain better, because I'm trying to steel man something that I don't understand.
Sure.
You basically just said there is no absolute truth, because it depends on the individual and how they see things too. And everything that you think you can prove, someone else can disprove.
That's not true. That's not what I said.
Okay, then I'm incorrect, and I guess you did confuse me. Maybe somebody else can clarify it.
Well, part of it is I was trying to steel man a perspective that I don't hold. So, Jim Bob check. No, I don't think absolute truth exists. I think that truth is a characteristic of a claim, and there is no claim that is universally accurate unless we're dealing with definitions.
Isn't that what I just said? There is no absolute truth because it has many variables.
Oh, you got two of me.
All right, now we got one of you. That's not what I understood you saying. I understood you saying that it changed, that one person's truth can change. Basically, I heard you saying his truth and her truth.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out, before you get to propositions like apples are red, I'll just ask you a simple question. Does anything have to be absolutely the case before you could make propositions?
Definitions.
Okay. Is there anything that has to be absolutely the case before we could make definitions?
Distinctions.
Okay. To make distinctions, is there anything that has to absolutely be the case, in effect, lawful for distinctions to exist?
I don't think so. Is there?
The laws of logic, the law of identity. So if it's the case that there are any preconditions that have to be absolutely the
I
case,
don't know that I agree with that.
well,
Sorry,
not agreeing with it would presuppose the thing that requires to be in place. So what I'm pointing to is, before you get into propositions, red is bright, pretty, or whatever you're going to describe, apples are round. I'm asking you to go back in time and go, is there anything that absolutely has to be the case, like a standard, or like a set of affairs that have to be in order for you to even use your mind and describe anything? And you pointed right to it. You said there has to be distinctions. So now the new starting level for absolute truth isn't propositional. It's the fact that the universe is ordered in a specific way with distinct objects.
but that ordering is created in the act of defining. It doesn't.
No. We don't define trees into existence.
No, but you make the distinction of what is a tree.
I know, but does a tree have to be the case? Does a tree have to exist the way it does in its family of other trees for us to describe it?
Linguistically, the distinction doesn't exist.
Does the material world, the thing you call a tree, does the material world distinct from other things, rocks and trees and clouds and planets? Do those things have to be themselves over time and not change in their categories for us to describe them?
The distinctions have to be identified by us. Yes, they are distinct in characteristics, but no, they are not distinct if viewed from molecularly.
Okay, I'm just pointing to one simple fact here, is that there is something that has to be absolutely true before you could make propositional truth claims about things, that the world has to be a certain way, that we have to have a mind, that we have to have a past, that there have to be the laws of physics and the regularities in nature. Things can't just pop into and out of existence, right?
There has to be a distinction to reference in order
that the world has to be coherent is a really simple way to say it. Would you say in order to make, okay, great. So the world being intelligible, I would say, instead of saying something more philosophical like truth is absolute, if you're having a hard time understanding what that would mean, just the statement the world is intelligible, to deny it would be to assume intelligibility, that you're even that you could even fathom what that even means it's intelligible. So
hold on, the claim truth is absolute then is not communicating anything.
Well, no, it is, because truth is absolute. The reason you can't get out of this statement is that any alternative statement would assume the statement to be true. So if I said truth is absolute and you said no, it's not, you're actually saying no, it's not, and that would now be an absolute truth statement. So you can't escape it. There's no escaping it.
How is absolute truth different from situational truth?
Well, like I said, absolute
Oh,
truth would have to point to something that's unchanging, even if our discernment of the thing was wrong and we gathered greater resolution of it. For instance, like progressively figured out how to better describe the world doesn't change the fact that the world is there to be better described. So
so
there's
you're
something.
saying that the truth of a thing exists whether or not we notice it. That's what absolute truth is?
Yeah, that it precedes us, that human beings have the capacity to examine and discern and discover truth. And this is the major thing. And Lindsay correctly pointed out that every one of these debates or conversations have to lead to epistemology, is that there are only two options in this case. We either discover truth or we invent it. If it's the latter, then it's relativism. And so there's only two choices. Truth is objective, absolute, or it's relativistic, which means the statement truth is relativistic couldn't be known to be true either, because it would be under relativism. We wouldn't know it would be true.
Does truth exist independent of a claim?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, because, well, especially from my view or any other, most theists or Christians, they would say that truth has to be bound in a mind and a being that precede all things, because propositions, like we just discovered, propositions require a whole slew of other things that need to be the case true before we're even capable of making propositions. There's all these things that have to be in place, that have to be true, that have to maintain their integrity and their function for us to even come to making sounds with our mouth. Like there's a whole slew of preconditions for us to talk that we just kind of take for granted, right?
Correct. Language.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
take it for granted because we're good at it and we're intuitive and we inherited language. But really, before the Enlightenment, these kind of questions, they had to be dealt with. And then I think after that, they were like, let's stop asking these questions. You know, they're too much of a stalemate or something like this. But I think it's important to look at, because obviously you've seen, and you're not even a tradcon Christard, but you see culturally where it goes, taking the position that truth is relativistic and we can create our own world simply by describing it differently. Then you get men literally trying to breastfeed their babies because they really think they're women, right? Like,
Hey,
this
Jim
is
Bob.
where it leads to.
Jim Bob, are you saved?
Saved, I'm saved, I am being saved, and I will be saved. But I don't have a tramp stamp though.
Do you need DeFreak to save you real quick?
Saved? No.
All right. DeFreak, he's got it locked down.
That's good.
You know, one of the problems I think you have, or we have, is just the fact we're communicating with words, and everything we discuss is basically based off our 5 senses worth of perceiving reality. And words, like, pretty much does not include intent, which is like, what is the absolute truth? Is an apple red? Yes, an apple's red. Is that the apple you were thinking of? Well, it is. An apple is also brown, right? It's absolute truth. Just because there's another option doesn't mean it's not truth. But you were thinking of an apple. That was your intent. So I think truth is absolute. I think it's just as simple as we see it. You know, what is truth and what isn't is not. It's not truth.
Well, I mean,
I think it's pretty simple. I think our issue is just the communication and our understanding of reality's foundation of what is. Like Lindsay was saying, you know, what is reality? The only thing I think we truly can say we know is that, like, I know I am. After that, everything else is a little bit assumed, because we only got our 5 senses.
Well, to be honest, I don't even know what subjective truth is. Sounds like an oxymoron to me.
Yeah, it's not a good statement to even use the two phrases, but I would push back on the sense thing, because self-evident truths, if you declare it self-evident because you're perceiving it, then you're putting the absolute truthfulness in your senses and your evaluation of your senses. But we know our senses can be wrong. So there's more to truth than merely our senses, because if we know our senses can be fooled, but not only that, our evaluation of the senses can be fooled. It doesn't skip immediately to epistemic nihilism or anything. It just means that, well, wow, we're actually living in a faith-based reality. It's not fully declared to be known simply because we perceive it. That we have faith, we put our faith in our reasoning and faculties, and we faithfully move forward with the assumption that the regularities from which we're gathering our sense data from maintain, that they'll actually keep going. And this is the big philosophical problem of induction, why empiricism is very helpful as a tool, but ultimately faith is really what we're all resting on. And the only question is, well, what justifies your faith? What view accounts for faith itself and makes sense of it for the human being? Obviously, I would say Christianity makes sense of what faith is. But from the naturalist position, they're stuck basically in the problem of induction. The naturalists, the empiricists, they have no justification for the assumption that the future will be like the past or like today at all.
Wait, what's a naturalist? Is that what I am?
I don't think you really are too hardcore on that. No.
Okay.
Because you accept immaterial parts of reality. You don't necessarily skip to like angels or whatever, but there's like the nerds would categorize you as like a soft Platonist or something. Like you accept you accept.
I'm not religious. I'm just spiritual.
Oh yeah, that's brutal. Yeah. No, you accept like conceptual. There's a conceptual realm to where we are. That things aren't reduced to just tree bark and dirt. Like there's some other thing a category we're using that can't be reduced down to matter or physicality.
I think that materialism is actually insanity, because the only thing that we all experience ultimately is our own consciousness.
Yeah, it would lead to solipsism, basically. A hard materialist would just have to bite the bullet and say, oh, well, I debated someone once who said the laws of logic are found in the brain. And I'm like, whose brain? Well, it's like, how would it be that the laws of logic are physical and yet they're identical and universal to everybody who has a physical brain, like as matter? I mean, that would make no sense. Not only that, he also said that we're always changing. So that doesn't make sense. So that would mean premise one would be the laws of logic are physical. Premise two is physicality is always changing. That would mean the laws of logic are always changing. So you no longer have knowledge anymore. So
yeah. Fuck, I just lost it.
No,
I disagree. I disagree with the faith part though.
No, you can't. But try.
You can't.
Denied.
Okay, let me reposition.
That's going to be a faith-based claim. I know it.
The claim that you have to dissolve the distinction between knowledge and faith in order for what you say to be right. Like, sure, to an extent, everything is faith, right? It is correct. I cannot destroy that claim, but it doesn't do anything to convey information or understanding. In fact, it reduces it by undermining everything. So if everything is faith, then what is knowledge?
Well, no, I don't. I think you just have a pejorative for faith. I would just say faith is a belief in something without what you call evidence. In this case, it would be empirical evidence.
What is knowledge?
Knowledge is experience. Faith is future.
Yeah, knowledge is like recollection of the past and organizing it in a pattern.
Isn't that faith in our own memory?
Yes. That's why you can't escape it.
Your taxes.
Right. So then knowledge would have to not exist.
Well,
In
no,
order,
knowledge is faith. It exists. It's just it relies on our faith, and so we're called to a faithful life. But we just have to justify knowledge. And like an atheist, if knowledge is mind dependent, and knowledge is tied to truth, and we discover knowledge as opposed to invent it, like some sort of weird, like some weird sippy cup or something.
Hmm.
Like it's not a convention if it's true. It's like it's something we discover. But the thing is, if these are mind dependent categories and we discover them, that means they preceded us, because otherwise discovery would make no sense. So the first the first dilemma is discovery versus creating. Now creating, of course, leads to relativism, so we reject it. So we say discover. So if we discover truth and gain knowledge and it's mind dependent, the question is, well, if knowledge and truth is mind dependent and it precedes our own mind, the only real question that's worth pursuing is, who is this mind?
does
Well, what you actually said there could be explained by linear time.
Well, explaining would be appealing to the thing where what's in question right now is recollection of the past, assumption of the future is like the past, and then making propositions about the past as if it's the present, right? Like people are saying we only have the present. Well, no, you just described something that's gone. So
do we discover or create good and evil?
we discover well, from my paradigm, we know. It's like the phrase is written on our hearts, right? The same way it's written on our hearts to pursue truth, that we're called to figure things out and debate and do all that. But if morality is written on our heart, that we have a sense of it, we can be betrayed by our senses, but we do have a sense of it, and we're then discovering I would say we're trying to discover a higher resolution of what that sense of morality is and how to ground it in something. But it's rooted in us. But that doesn't mean it's rooted in full resolution. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Not
Like
really.
it's not like fully loaded file, for instance.
But the paradigm of good and evil itself, sorry, DeFreak, I'll let you answer, but the paradigm of good and evil is something that we discover, not something that we created. Right, DeFreak?
I would say that we are establishing good and evil by our free will choices.
I would say we were aligning with it, that it's there, and for us to align with it. But if we're creating it like a manufacturing thing, that would mean we create evil. That would mean we're the architects of good and evil. I would say we're just aligning with what exists, or we choose not to.
If evil's an ontology, wouldn't it only exist when it's being acted out?
No, I wouldn't. I would say, but did you say evil or good?
Evil.
I would say evil can only be the privation away from the good, just like light. Darkness doesn't have its own ontology.
I think there's two aspects of using the word evil, or with the way people use it. One is just the general sense of what is good, what is evil. To me, it's very simple. There's creation and there's destruction, and that goes with intent and everything, not just some physical outcome. It's that simple. Or the creator creates, and dudes like saint and destroy. And you can say, "Oh, I can create something that," and someone use it for something bad. Well, it's not that's just nonsense. It's just a use of physicality, right?
Yeah.
But it's more or less intent, comes down to intent in that case. But then there's also the good and evil. What I say, the way I use the term spirit, is like an energy or a vibe. You get gambling fever. So there's a certain vibe that comes from evil. Basically, in the process of destruction, there's a sensation that your consciousness portrays, and it's literally actually vibrations like light that comes off you, so your light would change if you could see it or hear it.
So does that mean that evil requires intent? That's a precondition.
Well,
to be
for
met.
you to be evil or to
Wickedness.
perceive someone else is evil, right? Depends what you mean by that.
I would say wickedness requires intent and knowledge. Evil, you could commit evil and you didn't know it, but the question of judgment is really not for us, but for instance, you can
Yeah.
look back, and I could look back in time and look back, and even though I didn't know I was doing something evil, I can properly call it evil. But even though I was ignorant to the will of it. But it's proper to call it what it is. It's like saying, like, well, if I didn't know it was a crime, that might change the judgment in court, but it doesn't change that it's a crime. Similarly, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I agree with that.
So if evil is a precondition, or it's discovered, which it seems to be mostly what I'm hearing is it's discovered, not created, although it can be manifested. Doesn't that mean that? How does that rectify with a creator God that's all good? Does
to say evil exists at all necessitates
Yeah.
that creator, because then you can't have a privation of the thing. So because evil doesn't have its own positive ontology, that it's a privation or an act away from the target. The same way, like flow state, if you
I
granted,
think evil
hold
does
on.
have its own positive ontology.
Well, it's not logical, but because whatever you're calling evil is in reference to away from the good, just like this, like a darkness, the property doesn't actually have its own ontology. It's a category, a term we use for the absence of light. So if you granted that God created light, right? Would you say that he also created the shadow? Or would you say the light, now that's been created, has an effect on an object and casts a shadow as a result of its existence?
I understand that argument. I don't think it applies here because I don't think that the concept of evil works in a binary, right? The opposite of love is indifference, but you wouldn't call indifference evil.
You could call it reprobate. I mean, it's possible actually. So I wouldn't.
Unless
I
it
wouldn't
was
grant that.
neglect.
I would say that though that all of us would probably agree much more that evil is proactively malicious, which implies some sort of deference to the object.
I would say that would be wickedness, but I'm just being very elastic
pedantic.
here. Yeah. No, that would be a difference between evil and so evil. If you knew something was evil and you did something in the face of knowing it was evil, you're now in really in wickedness. You're not just committing evil, because ignorant people can actually commit sin and just not know it, and then when they're corrected, that's basically our task is to follow through when we've been corrected and realigned, and the will to realign ourselves as well. But the point
I
of
have an answer for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for God's full knowledge of good and evil. So we're establishing that by our witness and our testimony, which will be judged at all the various aspects and nuances of it. So it's for his full knowledge.
What will your witness and testimony be judged according to?
According to basically
how well you parrot platitudes.
The intent is a big factor there.
We're judged by our knowledge. He just said, like, so that means that, and this is true for even father.
Sorry, I thought the freak was speaking for himself.
No, I'm just like, I want to. You kind of you weren't really good faith with what he just said. He just said that we're in our paradigm we're judged by, it includes all of it, like the knowledge we had in those events. So it's not just the act, like a legalistic system where you're just acting out things and then judged by that. It's the knowledge, and this is true for how you would even judge your own children when you're punishing them. You would punish them less once you perceive that they were working in ignorance, and then after they know better. Every parent says this, right? You know better. You know better.
So what I'm trying to get at is, what is the value or virtue? What is the ideal that is being expressed or being looked for underlying the behavior of reciting platitudes?
Christ-like. It's not reciting platitudes. That's a really diminished bad faith categorization.
You're right. It was
wait.
It was condescending.
It's
theosis. The value of evil?
It's being Christ-like. That's what we're here for. Christians, our ultimate the ultimate goal is to live out and try to live aligned with and be Christ-like, knowing full well we can't ever match that. So it's like throwing a bunch of sea turtles into the ocean, looking down the beach and seeing millions more, and knowing your entire life you're probably not going to get all the turtles in, and yet the virtue is you're trying.
And saying platitudes makes it seem like you're just trying to win a prize instead of
Okay, can we
wanting
get
to
over the
live.
platitudes? Yes, it was derogatory and condescending. Y'all be fine. What I'm trying to tease out here, against all the butthurt over platitudes, is that the Christ-like behavior being displayed, right, is what? What is it? Is it memory of Scripture? Is it loyalty to tradition? What is the thing?
Well, I mean, it's a holistic paradigm. It's a life. You know, when you say a life, what is your life? That's like us asking you, hey, Flow State, when you say you want to be a good person and you're at the end of your road, you know, what does that all entail to you? You're looking at a wholeness of a life, right? You're not looking at a list of things you check mark. Like, for instance, Bill Gates could actually donate to a bunch of churches. Now, if he just did that and nothing else, obviously, we're not going to accept that legalistic view of participation. So you're really, this is where it gets interesting, which I'm not going to push on this tonight, but it really brings into a question, what is it to live a Christian life in its fullness? And that's something I give all people who say they're Christian, who claim it, I give them the benefit of the doubt that that's what they're after. I just believe that it necessarily ends up being a narrowing path.
And I agree. I think that that's the only proper way to approach that claim with somebody is to assume that they are telling the truth.
It's loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself.
Yep.
If we look at
Basically.
Jesus's life as a whole, would you say that via this specific stream, I am exhibiting Christ-like behavior?
There might be elements that you were.
Joseph, what do you think?
I think you got an axe to grind. I think you wear that hat in the same manner. I don't know.
Yeah, the hat's not helping.
You have a Jewish.
I think you're on your way,
You have a very Jewish approach to God. You're wrestling with God. You want to wrestle.
So I'm being adversarial, huh?
Well, it's in your nature. It's in sort of what your known nature is, to be anti-authoritarian, which makes you the priest, right? It's actually, the irony is that you actually do want to be the priest. You want to be the leader. You're like, you're a better person than him, but you are kind of Owen Benjamin-y in that regard. Is that
I'm not familiar enough. I understand that it's not a compliment, but I'm not familiar enough with
that's
Owen
fine.
Benjamin
God bless you for not being familiar enough. So it's this impulse, and this is pretty rampant with like libertarians, anarchists specifically, but it's this instant impulse to not submit to any sort of authority at all in regards to man or God, and yet at the same time, there's that would
be a dismissal of our responsibility. We're responsible for our own lives.
But we've had this debate before, dude, and the problem is, for you to be a good father, you're going to be teaching him obedience and hierarchy, which is against your fundamental principles. So if you were to be consistent, you would teach your own kid to reject what his father says, to rely first on what he thinks. And you teach him that early, but you don't.
Wrong.
You teach them that they are to listen to you as the priest of your home, right? The micro government, micro church that is your home. You're actually embodying the priest class, and yet rejecting it as some sort of authority. And yet you have to teach your own kid that you're just the Pope. You're the Pope. You're the main guy. You're Christ. And without, guess what? if you want women to follow you, yes, if women align their nature and trust the man and submit, not in a derogatory way, in an empowering way where there's a structure to the body of the home, if they accept that and they look at their husband and you don't submit to something higher, they have no reason to follow you, because you don't follow that principle.
You picked up properly on the irony, but you did a whole lot of projecting there that I'll forgive. You don't know me that well. But none of that about my parenting nor my desires is remotely true.
I mean, we've had a debate
I actually
about it.
don't want to be the authority of anybody. I want y'all to get on a logical wavelength with me, or else correct mine.
So you don't correct your kids when they do bad behavior?
Oh, I do.
So what do you mean? I thought you just said you don't want to be anyone's authority.
Correct. But it's not because I'm dad and I told you so. That's shitty parenting. That's lazy parenting. There's a reason why I correct them. They don't have the context or understanding at their age to understand it without being corrected.
No, but there's a reason why they're listening to dad and not someone else, though.
Right. Well, I have the responsibility to teach them that. They are my children. This is
yes. So it is because I am your dad. There is an authoritative aspect that all they need to know is that dad said so. Correct?
False. That's not all they need to know. They need to understand why.
Well, yeah.
They need to understand why, or else
Trustworthy.
I'm not doing my job correctly.
Okay, but if they ask why, and your answer is, well, my worldview is no one should have an authority. If you were to be consistent with them, you would tell them that. You wouldn't tell them that, right?
No, I wouldn't tell them that. And authority's appropriateness is situational. If you were to be consistent, then everybody should be your authority.
No, that's not true.
That's not. It's just as true as what you said about mine.
No.
Your mic is going out.
I could actually sit here and say that Flo has the spirit of rebellion, and that's why he rejects all authority. But that wouldn't be true, because if something better comes along, a better idea, a better way, or whatever, Flo will adapt that.
Correct.
I think
I don't gain from being on weaker footing, and if I believe something that's wrong, that's weak footing.
I think you're much more Christ-like than not. Generally, and generally also, like any of us, as soon as you come online, you got to have a bit of an ego. Like your ego builds a little, right? And that's not very Christ-like. Then there's all kinds of other details like the hat and whatnot. But in general, Christ came. What is his thing? You know, like it was to help humanity, and I think a lot of what you do has some of that intent. It's not just what the effect is; it's what your intent is. Now, there's a great deal of your intent is to make a buck as well. But I think generally you're more of a good guy, and you like to. This helps society more so than destroys. Although I don't know, sometimes your show is pretty shitty and it's pretty crazy, and you let people give money to kick other people off and a lot of other shit. But it's just part of the game that kind of people are playing.
I think you have your first believer, Flo.
No, I'm not.
I can't spend this much time on
belief
to
shit.
get away for free.
I don't be a lie. Belief is just being a lie. I have faith in things, but I don't believe anything. I see.
You don't think that Jesus had a bit of an ego?
That's a good question, man. Like I would say not of his own, for God, as in God's representation, perhaps.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that, but I don't want to interrupt. What do you mean when you say having an ego isn't Christ-like? I don't understand that.
I think if you look at the stories of Jesus, he had a huge ego. He was massively adversarial and controversial.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. I couldn't say he didn't. Like, how could he even exist the way he did and demanding things without one, right? But I think he is on behalf of God. Like he that's why he's God's word. Like he's pure in his views, understanding, and everything he does, like is 100% of the creator and not of destruction.
Well, like what's wrong with having a positive image of oneself that's not Christ-like?
Truth justifies ego.
It's the way our egos sort of act out, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't just have said ego only. But most of the time, our egos cause us to compare ourselves to others and to try to be better than them, and that's a negative thing.
Yeah,
If
like-
it's
Okay, I see what you mean.
Be a distinction between ego and pride. Ego is a very modern term, by the way. Like what we're referring to, like what would the ego be in reference to the year 300, right? People walking around, what is it they would be pointing to that they're calling an ego? It's we're using very modern psychology terminology to try to fit like back in the day during the life of Christ and the apostles, and trying to understand like, well, we have to then consider how much of our own, what we would call an ego, is spawned from modernity itself and expectation of things and status and reflection of ourselves. I mean, how many times did a person in the year of 200 see their own picture in their lifetime? You know what I mean? Their own reflection.
Probably not much.
Yeah. Like you think about that and you go, well, shit. Like we hear it, see it. I mean, our lives are reflected and documented in real time, shown back to us so that we're like the center stage performance of our own, life show or whatever. And it's like, I'm just trying to imagine like someone leaving like the Second Temple or whatever, and they wouldn't even consider this kind of meta analysis, right? They just wouldn't even, it would be like, what the fuck? They'd be like, how is papyrus mate rolled or whatever? They'd be thinking like some other concern. We're so luxurious, right? I mean, Ted Kaczynski was right about some things.
Old
Let's just
Joe, are
say
you about
that.
to jump down?
Yeah, I suppose when I
I
think
was going
of
to, yes, but was there?
Okay. Well, if I want to give you a second to have a last thought if you're about to jump down.
No, it's an interesting. The part that really interests me is the objective truth discussion. If it exists, and can we acknowledge that an objective truth exists while at the same time acknowledging that we can't identify it? I think that's where we really run into trouble, is when we start to say objective truth exists, yes, and here, let me tell you what it is. So those are the kind of discussions that fascinate me.
it sounds like you're more afraid of like you want a gray area of discrepancy, that way something can't be foisted on you. But I don't know if that negates absolute truth being a thing.
No, I don't think that it's that the gray area has to exist. I think there's something very comforting, and I really do believe this is a Christian value. You know, the Christians on the panel can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's something comforting and grounding in humility, the ability to exist with a certain level of ambiguity. We did an exercise in one of the classes I was in university where you had to rank yourself with your comfort with ambiguity. If you had a high comfort level with high amounts of ambiguity in your life, you were at one end of the line, and at the other end of the line, if you needed everything to be fixed, if you needed to have answers to everything. And the people that needed the answers, that had to have structure, were always really, and I know this sounds really bad to say, but they were always twitchy, nervous, unhappy people, and they tended to fall into things like believing what authority figures said all the time. You know, if you got a dictate from the government and you didn't acquiesce to it, then those kind of people were the first to be critical of you. And I think that ambiguity piece, that comfort with not knowing what the objective reality is, I think that's really important to me, anyways.
Machine Lies, Uncle Fatty, welcome.
See you guys.
You want any thought? Oh, and real quick, if you prefer this type of content to drama, it'd be a good time to contribute, so that I know that, because like it or not, the drama content pays the bills way better than this sort of stuff. So.
And Flo, has the viewership kind of stayed the same? Because I can't see it from where I'm at.
It's at 48 right now, so it's slowly it's been about the same. Yeah, it's been about here for most of the night. So
So one last question on that topic. You find the drama content gets around the same viewership but higher donations generally?
it gets massively higher donations. It gets slightly higher viewership.
What do you enjoy more, the smut?
It depends on my mood. I enjoy both of it.
God definitely loves drama.
Absolutely, you'd have to.
Can you make that argument without God, though?
What do you mean? Which argument?
As Christians, it's kind of we have to take it upon us to do what the ancient philosophers did and put God aside, and not have God as the only pure block in our foundation.
What does that mean?
I'm not sure what you're getting at. I'm not following.
When God is your stronghold, your argument, it's an appeal to authority.
Yes.
Because which God am I supposed to appeal to, right?
Okay.
One of the 4,200 or the spaghetti monster?
I think I follow you, and that's sort of what I was trying to tease out earlier. Is what is the character trait that's being selected for, and the platitudes for, just so everyone knows what I'm referencing. Because to me it seems like that's something akin to obedience, and gullibility. I don't understand what the virtue is being referenced through that behavior, and I'm trying to figure out how to express that without being derogatory. I just really don't know how.
Well, I
Wait,
think
the
Well,
virtue-
in the end, wouldn't any behavior characteristic that you chose to employ merely be a preference and expression of your own free will and logic?
Seems
Yes.
seems reasonable.
So how is it any different? You're merely trying to make the best choice of a bouquet of options in front of you. That's all
Right.
you're doing. And
Correct.
you're using your own individual intellect to arrive at that best choice.
And we can't choose of what we don't know, right?
And so
I don't
How is
believe-
how is one different than the other? I mean, you could make an argument, you can make a more powerful argument and say, okay, I think this is the better option, which totally makes sense.
Yeah, but
But
in
to
Old
say that
Joe,
one is absolutely true.
well, Old Joe is also pointing to is that why would you not grant people who choose obedience to arrive at obedience as a free will choice, just like Joe said? Why are you assuming that they're just gullible, or that they didn't actually come to that as the best choice for them? Why
Which
would
would
you
once again be your individual choice to make, how you looked at those people and whether you decided to emulate them or not.
Right. Like, I don't know why it would
I don't
be
even
pejorative.
I don't even think so. I think that if we agree that there's a ranking in the reliability of information sources that we can see conclusively, it's not objectively better or neutral even. That taking third, fourth, however, whatever hand experience it is from a book that some other dude gave you is not a better source of truth than your own life that you've lived.
But we weren't talking about truth. You're talking about just obedience. So you're skipping to following something that's true. So I'll ask you, being that you're now putting truth as the priority, would you be obedient to something if you were convinced it was true?
Would I be obedient to something if I were convinced it was true?
Yeah, if the truth
If-
entailed obedience, would you be obedient?
If disobedience required distruth, yes.
I'm saying if arriving at the truth entailed obedience to it, would you, without question, just follow it against your own preferences?
I don't think that this paradigm can exist
What do you mean? You're a father.
because I don't think
hold on a
that
second.
you can have
Whoa.
you can't have
Whoa.
moral or virtue actions
Flo.
under coercion without free will.
Flo, you're a father. I know
Yes.
this reality does exist because being a father is that reality. You have to align yourself, right, and teach obedience, right? And you have to basically stand in a position that sometimes you don't prefer, that causes some immediate let's say interruption in your child's
Sure. Okay.
happiness, let's say, right?
In that example, though, they're not aligning themselves to truth. They're doing what the fuck they need to not get their ass whipped, basically.
Right, but you're aligning them with proper behavior that you find proper. And so what I'm saying is that
But that alignment is incidental.
I'm just
The
saying
truth and the alignment are independent of
I
each other.
understand flow. You just got to get my point here. Is that
Holy
I'm saying
shit!
that
Can anyone hear me?
Now
Holy
we can.
fuck! Oh
saying
my god! Thank God! Good lord!
I'm
Yeah,
saying
thank you.
I'm saying your obligation as a father supersedes your preferences at times.
I agree with that.
Okay, so from that position, you are actually being obedient to something beyond your own preferences. So I would ask you, what is it you're being obedient to and aligning your actions with if it's not your
Reality.
preferences?
Can I throw a
Yeah.
hypothetical at you, Jim Bob?
Yeah.
So
Joe
what
Biden
I
knows that
actually am,
too.
what I actually am by trade is a bulldozer operator, eh? And I worked with a
Nice.
bulldozer operator who was fabulous. He was actually a genius. They do exist. And he was also a complete asshole and a dick. So when it came to his bulldozer operator techniques, I was obedient to his instructions.
Mm-hmm.
However, his method of delivering them oftentimes, and he had other errors in his personality as well.
Mm-hmm.
And his method of delivering his instruction left a lot to be desired. And I told him that. And so if I had have submitted in my entirety to his personality, that would not have been a good decision. There were elements of what he knew that I wanted to know and pick up on, but complete submission. And I would say, even in parenting, sometimes your kids will let you know, like we all make mistakes, right? And you'll get feedback from your kids on when you're doing so. So entire and utter submission to any authority figure, I think, is a mistake. Partial submission, yes.
I think, Joe,
does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think you're conflating submission to like for instance, doing what someone says because it's good for you versus mimicking how they said it. I don't think the two are the same. So you could hold, just like you did, you can hold submission to a higher authority, and even if they're a total dick and you don't like their delivery, the thing that we're really pointing to, at least in this conversation, is how to live your life. But then if you want to expand, well, how do you live your life is how you act. I think it is important, especially in Christianity, that your authorities embody a way that's ends up not being like your bulldozer guy.
Well,
yeah, but let's just dissect that. Let's just dissect. Machine lies. I'll jump out after one. Let's just dissect that parenting.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good, old Joe. No worries.
Let's just dissect that parenting example. Would you say that there are times when it would be appropriate for a child to rebel against a parent in certain circumstances?
Like a child, we're talking prepubescent, underdeveloped person, right?
Anybody you would consider a child?
No, they wouldn't. Not without another adult verifying that, right? So the hypothetical would still appeal to an adult determining whether or not it was justified that they rebel. So are they really rebelling or appealing to just another adult?
So here's where I think your worldview will peel off from Flo's. Is that I think if you had a 12 or 13-year-old child, I think that Flo could probably well imagine a circumstance where it would be appropriate for that child to rebel against certain dictates given by that parent.
Absolutely.
And I don't think, and I was surprised that you said no, because I was expecting you to say yes, there would be. And you can guess what my next question would have been.
Yeah, but that's why I asked you an age specificity, because if someone's underdeveloped, they might actually be rebelling and it's correct. But the question is, you're still going to appeal to an authority. That's an authority figure.
Rebelling is a critical part of development.
I won't change my mind because I don't have to, because I'm an American. I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts that are set out before me. I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
And let me
I cut TML off. I'm sorry.
That's your best clip, Flo, by the way.
Hold on, I'm cutting everybody off. Let me thank DeFreak and Nobleness D for the contributions. I think one of them, let's see, Nobleness with $40 for the truth. I appreciate you. And I think DeFreak also said for the truth. Oh, DeFreak really? Loves God and likes the drama. So thank you both.
When you hear the sirens or anti-aircraft guns, you must get under cover at once. the open with no cover, lie down. The most important rule of all is never to stand staring at the sky. If you don't take cover, you may get hurt.
Imperialize.
America, fuck yeah.
Machine Lies, jump in.
Oh well, it was a quite some time ago. Just a very simple question: do you need obedience to get to the truth, or is it the other way around? You know what I mean? Is
I
what
think
the
it's
question.
the other way around, personally.
Obedience to whom?
It doesn't matter. If you need to find the truth, you need to find it for yourself, which includes disobedience.
I think you need obedience. I think you need to be obedient to proper reasoning and the laws of thought. You see, like sophists, they think that they don't need to be obedient to the laws of logic and they could just do whatever they want. So I think you're still obedient in the pursuit of truth. But if you're saying
But where do those come from? Like the laws of logic, those don't come from any central authority, right?
well, from my view, I'd say they do come from God. So I don't know if you would call that central or whatever, but I would say they do have a
Right.
source.
But how does a human being get them from God?
Well, I would say that we were made in his image. And so things like laws of thought, reasoning, love, the want to pursue the
Things we
truth.
learn, right?
What needs to be learned?
The things we learn. Like, these are things we learn about, right? The
So
philosophy.
knowledge.
Yeah, we discover.
So knowledge is the bridge, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
To
I would-
God, right?
knowledge,
To faith in God.
Yeah, maybe practice too, not just knowledge, but the practice of that. The knowledge you have, you can practice it.
So you need knowledge to get to God, right?
I don't know what you mean. Get to God though, like a destination.
Well, no, you're saying that there's God, right? And then there's logic, right? And there's authority, right? And you said the logic has authority because of God, right?
Yeah, I would say
following.
logic requires God. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And then I said, well, how do you get the logic from God? And you said, well, there's all sorts of things that humans have, like thought and reason, right? So then
Well,
I
I said
said,
we're
well,
made in-
knowledge is
yeah.
well, you need knowledge to get to God, right? And you said, yeah, right.
Yeah, I would say knowledge, and that knowledge would need something too, and knowledge would be would require revelation. So
And
it'd be
knowledge
top.
is subjective, right? Because my knowledge is going to be different than somebody that lives
No.
in India, right?
No,
and
I wouldn't say
and
it's
their knowledge is
subjective.
going to be different than mine. Therefore, we're going to follow a different path to a different God.
Well, no, I wouldn't say knowledge is subjective. I think that would make it actually objective. The way you just said it is that it's objectively the case that people in India.
Yes,
using-
yes.
you know.
You're right. You're fucking right. And this goes back to what old Joe was asking. Can one type of truth exist with a different type of truth? Can objective
not
and
if it's
subjective
contradictory.
and reality all be one thing, but also be a little bit different and a little nuanced?
What does that even mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to. You'd need an example of
Objective truth, subjective truth, relative
No.
truth, absolute truth. Can two exist at the same time?
that. Well, I mean, there's give an example. Are you saying that Spider-Man exists? We know what the referent is, but Spider-Man doesn't actually exist.
Sure. Whatever I'm saying, can two exist at the same time?
Yeah, but
Then
Spider-Man
why are we
actually.
as humans so intent on defining an absolute?
Well, no, you're defining
Because
absolute
absolute
right
truth,
now.
there is absolute truth. There is. I can't
know,
fly
but
off a
you're-
fucking building.
I know, but
right?
you're just
Okay.
doing an absolute truth right now that it's
Yeah.
split. That's just another absolute truth.
I think the ego requires a foundation to anchor to in order to establish truth for the future. To answer your question, Pat.
And when the foundation is God, I would ask, what God? Right? Because
That could be off here, Jim Bob, but
truth
maybe you should just
in
start
your
using
spirit and your truth is going to be different than somebody else that was growing and raised somewhere else with different knowledge base.
The question is it coherent though? I mean, just because someone raised somewhere else it doesn't follow, like if they're trained to think that the
It
tree
follows
that
everything, brother. Okay.
hold on, hold on a second. If someone's
You
raised
can't
in
go
the
any further than that. I'm going to stop you when you're going
Uncle
on
Fatty,
down
let
a
him
path.
finish his
It's
thought.
illogical.
dude,
Okay.
Let
listen,
him finish his
just
thought.
because someone learns something in a specific area, it doesn't follow that it's true just because they learned it. Like, for instance,
When it
you
comes
have,
to God,
dude,
yes, it
dude,
does.
no, it
Uncle
doesn't.
Fatty.
You have to use coherency to come to that truth, because if someone says this tree, if there's a tribe who never saw anything else other than a giant tree that gave them food, and it just happened to always give them food, and they said their conception of God was that tree, their conception of God would be limited just to their environment. And so you could cross-examine what they meant by God, and you can determine that, well, that tree actually, there's other trees like that, and are there two gods now that there's two trees like this? And they would learn that that tree in their environment isn't actually God when they use coherency as the model for cross-examining it. It's not true just because there's different people claiming gods. They're not equal just because there's multiple claims.
If there was no other God introduced in that scenario, they would still be judged on their righteousness.
Who would
So
judge
it's
them? The
irrelevant.
tree? How does a tree judge?
They
They'll
would be
judged by
using their
God.
coherence.
Would they be believing the tree was judging them? Yes or no?
I don't know that, but ultimately they would be judged by the God of Abraham and whether they were righteous or not.
No, I agree with that. Ultimately, they're going to be judged by their knowledge, right? But that doesn't, it sounded like you were saying, and maybe I just misinterpreted it. It sounded like you were arguing, well, these other tribes who believe all this crazy shit, they just don't know better. And still maybe there's a way for them. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I don't have the capacity to judge their salvation at all. I have no authority to do that. However, to say that it's true because God might be merciful in judging them is, I think, a big leap that we should probably both not take.
I would never take that.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, because some people do take a syncretist or a perennialist. They try to like sort of put it all into one big basket and go, well, it's all the same God, bro. It's just a different expression. It's like, well, that can't be true, because there's contradictory.
I think
Folks,
Noble
can I
hit on
just jump
something.
in here? Because I'm going to jump down, but I have a favor to ask of Jim Bob, if he doesn't mind. You made a promise one time for a musical debate. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So I want to see that. I think that it would be so cool if you could actually set that up with somebody who could ad lib. I mean, I think that would be hilarious to do on your channel. I think you'd get tons of views. Anyways, thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for joining.
Good night, Joe. I had a thought on the
Old man.
obedience part when Flo asked. I'm thinking, because I thought about it a little, that obedience, we naturally reject being ruled over, we naturally reject obedience because I think it's necessary, but only in the physical realm. Because we know that's actually not God's way. No parent can come across without anger and whatever, and all that. So anything any other human does, I think instinctively and deep down, we know that's not God's way, and we reject it to be obedient to it. And I don't think we need to be obedient to anything, except because we're in the physical realm, we do, because we're just idiots, right? We have little understanding of consequences, and people and other entities are constantly trying to deceive us, and our reality from this perspective is not simple to understand. We fuck up, right? So yeah, we do need guidance in the obedience, family structure, all that. But in the essence of existence, like if we were to exist as spiritual beings, we would see and understand all intent and consequences. And I don't even think being obedient to God is pointless. It's not about being obedient, because you can be obedient with shit intent. It's about your intent, how you exist. So
it'd be redundant
existing.
At that point.
Yeah, exactly. That comes being obedient becomes automatic, or redundant is even a better word. Yeah, it's pointless. Like, you're going to exist in God's way. You don't need to be obedient. He gave us free will for a reason. He doesn't want us to be obedient. That's dumb. It's like a checklist for religion so that you can, be saved. It's bullshit. It's all about intent. Sorry, I'm
This
done.
one's for
Yeah,
you.
would you say that if you have the truth, you don't need obedience? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Sure, I guess, but what is to have the truth?
I
And I
would-
don't think we can have that in a physical form and with five senses.
I would say so.
perception.
If you're obedient and you understand that it's in your best interest, you would know obedience becomes unnecessary. If the obedience is to something that is to your detriment, that should not be obeyed.
I'm
still
having
think
a
you're
hard
gonna.
time
I still think you're
following what
gonna.
you guys mean by obedience.
I think
Like,
you're
are you
still
saying
appealing to it.
obedience is the prize if you know truth?
Go ahead,
I
Jim
think-
Or
Bob.
you can negate truth?
I think you're still the person who said your obedience is useless, because I think what you're saying is, if you're living in good faith with God, you don't need to be obedient because that's like a legalistic like check mark. I understand that aspect of it. However, if you're saying we appeal to our intent, if you and I both know our intent could either align with our own wants and needs or with God's will, ought we not be obedient to realign our intent to God's will in that
No, not if
instance?
it's not if it's to our detriment. If we can disobey God, and it would be to our benefit to disobey God, why would we obey Him to our detriment?
That would be your paradigm that you're approaching, like
Okay.
self-interest. I'm talking to the guy who sounds like he does believe in God, that he says, well, if we're faithful to God, we're already obedient, so it's redundant because it's our intent. I agree, there's intent and action. You just can't just do tithing, right? And then, a fly on the wall is seeing you be a good person because you're giving money to the church or whatever. So I agree with the intent and spirit is also involved there. But I just wanted to know whether, if we have free will and our intent can either be aligned with God's will or our own wills, are we not called to, from an obedience perspective, are we not called to realign ourselves in that moment?
I don't think God really plays out His will on us. I don't think He has a will for us. But we need to or have to like shine in His light or in His way in order not to bear the consequences, which I think is sort of naturally a part of reality. It's a function of reality. So I don't think like He has a will. I'm sure He has, like, He hopes we shine in His light and be of creation and not of destruction. But yeah, I think that I have a little bit of an issue with using the will part. That's an assumed thing, I guess, that he has a will upon us.
Well, let's just say, call it whatever you want, the light. Like, if there's a way to properly live in the light of God,
right, and
there's a narrow path to walk or whatever, if we can use our free will and intent to walk away from that road, isn't the thing that's calling us back still a matter of like realigning to what God's road is? And
yes.
Yeah.
It's basically just avoiding evil ways. I mean, that's not a great way to term it, but what's not destructive. Yeah.
That's where I'm
And
confused.
giving and not taking is another two terms I use a lot.
Yeah, it's like following God's speed limit. Like, when we drive, we are obedient to the speed limit, and sometimes it's not even because the speed says a limit. It's because we know that maybe we'll lose control if we drive a certain speed, and maybe we can test that sometimes. And it turns out to be the case that, like, 65 to 75 miles per hour, some people, women, might lose control.
And Asians, go ahead and say it.
And so I understand that, but the analogy would be, well, in that sense, if the speed limit and the road itself is what you call God's light, God's road, I know that it seems like you're saying obedience has this pejorative nature to it. So I understand why people say that, but to me, it's still, we don't escape that. We're still like kind of called, and there's an obligation. So I feel like, I'm not sure if someone could hold a position that there's obligations in regards to God, whoever you call God, even how they can claim there's obligations, but there isn't a sense of obedience to those obligations. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like embedded in the duties aspect
Right.
that you are obedient to duties.
I'm
That's where I take issue with people trying to make the claim that heaven is the prize of believing in Christ. And from my perspective, it's living your life aligned in a Christ-like way. That's the real victory. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, you are fading out, homie.
The
That's
obedience,
sort of,
like that, what you said earlier.
Praise
Yeah,
God.
God's fading
Praise
them out.
God, man.
I think at the same time, I want to express, like, I think that we are so limited in our perception and understanding of reality and the consequences of the things we do, just for the simple fact that we do use lines of logic or thought patterns of logic in order to figure things out. It is completely limited in understanding, or I don't know, primitive perhaps, compared to all the energy and influence and information that exists in reality. So therefore, if we do want to shine in God's light and we realize how horrid and horrible evil is and destruction is, in order for us to even have a chance, I mean, you have to be pretty much turn yourself over and be in tears that we are, you know, we know so little and we understand so little. And that sort of is like, you can turn to an obedience thing, like, just, you know, guide me, you know, show me the path sort of thing. Because we really are just babies, you know, we are children in our understanding of reality. I think it comes hand in hand with it existing with evil and in a physical form. But yeah, I wanted to express that because I come across like, oh, well, you know, it's like free will and all whatever. But really, we don't know shit, man.
That's the surety that you get with Jesus Christ.
According to your authority, bro. Come on.
The surety, what do you mean by that, though? The surety that his example was perfect?
That he, his purpose was to basically, you know, secure mankind in the kingdom of God.
To secure mankind in the kingdom of God.
How is that a surety delivered that is different from, say, this kind of surety that you would get from Uncle Fatty spurging about his spaghetti monster?
Because he actually was, you know, crucified on the cross and was raised from the dead.
Okay.
That's where the rubber met the road.
That's where, but again, we're here where we're at, the road we're on. You're just and he, Uncle Fatty, can say exactly the same thing about Spaghetti Monster. They're just
We're the goddess Kali, right? Who is the Lord Shiva's daughter, who is on my heels, dude. I'm eating my
honestly,
past.
Uncle
Literally
Fatty,
eating
I'm
it.
doing better talking about you than with you right now.
You say the awesomest shit sometimes. I don't know how you come up with this shit.
Because this is ludicrous, you guys. How many fucking people have talked about this in the past? This is not hard shit to figure out, right? There's more than one type of truth, and they can exist at the same time. And it's a crazy fucking concept. I know it is.
Give us an
That's
example.
fine. I'm just saying that the only way that you could know for sure.
I want to talk to the freak about this before it gets derailed into somewhere retarded. The freak, you understand that where we're at, the road that we're on, and the rubber that we've got, it's just claims. It just claims. There's nothing else upholding it up.
Okay, but how come he's the only one that made the claim?
I just pulled an arbitrary claim out of my ass.
No, I mean, Jesus is the one who made the claim and did the work.
No, you're the only one. You're the only one making the claim to me right now.
Okay, that's true. Also, Jesus is the only one who declared the Father and God and actually rose from the dead and made the claim. Whereas I've never heard Jesus. I know,
I've never heard Jesus say a damn thing. What I'm pointing out is that your claim that something happened has no more assurance embedded in it than anyone else's claim that something happened.
Okay, first of all, I'm not aware of anyone else making that claim, and second of all we.
It doesn't matter.
The testimony.
The claim itself doesn't matter.
The claim itself doesn't matter. Okay, well, if it didn't matter, then why are other people making that claim?
Does he not? Somebody else help me. Does he not understand what I'm pointing out, or is he refusing? Does he understand it and refuses to deal with it?
I'm kind of lost on you too, buddy.
All right, I'm going to back out of this one. I think that he understands and refuses to get it. Go ahead, guys.
So who else has made the claim of God and actually rose from the dead and made that claim and actually has written testimony about it?
Nobody has made that claim nor done the thing, as far as I'm concerned. I've never seen it. I've never experienced it. I've never smelt it. As far as I know and am convinced, as far as you can demonstrate, motherfucker, it's never happened.
Okay,
That's what I'm pointing out.
Except that we do have the Bible and the written testimony of the
So
gospel.
what? It's just a book.
Okay.
It's
So
not proof. That's the point I'm trying to
There's a
make.
difference here, guys, that's happening, right? It's the difference between correspondence theory and coherence theory, where one is just a statement of like a reflective reality.
Yeah,
Okay,
correspondence
it's a
is
statement
the
of your
wrong one.
right? Right, and then coherence being like a set matter of beliefs.
What type of information do we have for history?
Subjective
Well, you have to
and
go-
objective, because our history is written by those who won.
Do you believe in
Okay,
the Odyssey, Joseph? Do you think the Odyssey tells real history?
The Odyssey?
The
Sure.
Odyssey.
Sure it does,
The
Flo.
Odyssey with the stories of Cyclopses and sea nymphs and stuff.
Oh, the
Yeah, but
Odyssey
sure.
from like ancient Greek.
Yeah, is it
Yeah, but
literal?
sure it
truth?
does, Flo, because look, they had those two nations going to battle, the Trojans, right? And that portrays the history, because see, when they came back and wrote, they had the Iliad and then the Aeneid, and then when they
Okay.
came back and wrote the Aeneid,
Stop.
it was about the Roman Empire, right?
Well, I believe
What are-
dragons used to exist.
Do
so I
you
don't know
believe
if you
in
wanna
do you
ask me
believe in
that question.
Cyclops? Do you think the Odyssey is literally describing Cyclopses? Joseph.
I don't know. I haven't read the Odyssey. I actually own the book, but I haven't read it yet.
What I'm trying to illustrate is that no, you don't. Because even though it's an old book that tells old stories, some of the stories contradict with what we know about reality.
Sure,
Namely that people have two eyes.
I believe what's logical and what's possible, to my understanding. So if I want to believe in it, I'll take some leaps, logical leaps, maybe.
Faith.
But I don't know.
Cross-referencing is a big thing too that helps.
But if you want to like graft that onto God, I think there's a very logical case to be made for God's existence. I think it's more logical than not.
Yeah.
Knowledge is
so-
information, right? It's subjective on the information. It's based on
No, Uncle
information.
Patty, I was asking you that because you were saying like things in history can't be known. So I asked you, well, what type of knowledge is in history?
And then went on to
It's
tell
all
me
the
what
same
it was.
stuff. No,
right?
well, no. You said it's
If you can
objective.
cross-reference
So-
something, the probability
Our history is
goes
our
way up in
perception.
the history side.
Our history, the history I know, is what I've been programmed with.
No,
the-
you were
with
you
what
were
I learned.
you were
With what I learned.
nitpicking the Bible and saying that, well, it's correspondence, or I'm pretty sure that's what you said. So then I
Yeah,
followed
but
up. Well, what
he-
about all of history?
Yeah, but here's the
And I was
thing.
That'd be
Well,
definitionary theory compared to ontological. I mean, I don't know. Conclusive theory. There's
It doesn't.
No, but
sound
what I
like
meant to say is that in the Odyssey, there's like you could ascertain facts about history from reading the Odyssey, right? Like geographical locations and stuff like that, right? So that's all.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but I understand what you're getting at. But the point that I was trying to illustrate is that there's some things that are obviously fiction. We know it's obviously fiction because we correspond it against reality that we know today.
if we
I
had
think
some
that's fair.
skulls, we'd be more likely to identify with those because we say we had
Some days I just want to
Skeleton.
murder you, Uncle Fatty.
right. if we had that, if we had the information, we would be more likely to believe it, right, Joe? Because we would have more information to base our theories and our thoughts and what we want to believe.
Yeah, well, you're just setting
What
a
we
threshold
want. What
standard.
we
then at
choose
that
to
point,
believe
yeah.
what we believe.
But when
Also,
we have the Sanskrit, referencing the Hebrews and the Egyptians referencing the Hebrews and the Hebrews referencing the Egyptians and
Yeah.
the Assyrians, those all collaborate out, and those you have to say that yes, these are facts because the other side
fuck
is
if you
don't
do.
believe it.
The
But the probability
fuck
is on your
if
side
you do.
now.
Yeah, but
Okay,
redundant.
how many people
redundant
have to reference
can't
each other for somebody to raise from the dead?
2 or more witnesses according to the word of God.
Well, that's why it's not the fucking word of God, you dumbass. I appreciate your support.
I understand, Flo.
Can people will me to be able to fly off a building? No, because there can be more than one truth at one time. Everything isn't always just one.
So the Egyptian text has the Egyptian perspective. The Hebrew text has the Hebrew perspective. The Assyrians, the Assyrians. So when they all kind of cross-reference each other, you have to believe that there's some truth in there.
How many of them say that Jesus was the Son of God, and he raised from the dead after 3 days after dying for our sin? How many say
Well,
that?
we have the Gospels and other things, but that's really all about that we have.
Okay, so your cross-reference example doesn't actually demonstrate anything.
Well, it does if you believe that the Gospels were written by different individuals and they're all kind of cross-referencing and kind of collaborating with each other. Plus, you have the Quran.
Well, the Quran. What's the Quran say about it?
Oh, well, it mentions the Gospel at least 11 or 12 times.
Well, sure. The things that mention the Gospel, I mention the Gospels all the time. I reference them all the time. That doesn't mean I'm validating their truthiness.
Spiritually, the Quran validates the Gospel.
I found an expert on the Quran and what it says.
Brother, what's that?
Bro.
Jesus
Hey, guys,
performed
I gotta
many miracles, right? It wasn't just him rising from the dead. He performed many miracles, many hundreds of people would have seen in total, I would think.
Hold on a second, D. Jim Bob, are you dropping off?
Yeah, I gotta go. It's 3 a.m. for me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming up and having a conversation.
Thanks
Good
for
to see you,
talking,
Bobby.
everyone. See you later.
Good night,
You're
Jim.
not first or last, Bobby.
All right, go ahead, D.
Yeah, Jesus performed many miracles. It wasn't just him rising from the dead, and the people have witness to that situation. After the fact, I guess you would say. Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I would like to mention is I think where the rubber met the road, so to speak, when it came to Jesus or his purpose, what he really did to save humanity, is he delivered a message, and that message was we're forgiven. And with that message, we're able to overcome the concept of dying because we've sinned.
But that message exactly brings me back full circle to my original claim, which is we don't need to be forgiven.
It implies
no, we do. Do you know why? Because we've been deceived. Because we believed a lie. But mind you, I'm not typical Christian because where I go with this is next level. Like,
where are you going?
I think we were deceived in thinking that we sinned, but sinned is a subcategory of evil. Like it is.
Welcome.
The concept of evil is kind of, or sinning is kind of like I think it might be a deception.
Welcome to the new agnostics.
But no, it's not agnostic.
Yeah.
No, it's still not God's way. But if I go up and kick a dog by law, it's not a sin. Well, that's ridiculous. It's certainly not God's way. Right? I'm even more strict.
Hold on, let D speak. Go ahead, D.
Yeah, like I know this is like hits bad because I think quite likely, sort of statistically and the way things fit together, that the deception was from the very beginning, and Satan was playing good cop, bad cop, and pretty much from the garden. And a lot of what's going on in the Old Testament is who is the God that they're following, and why did Jesus come and be like freaking tear it all down as much as he could, and ended a lot of laws, even told the priests themselves, like, you worship the devil. Stop burning things, it stinks, right? Like I think there's a lot of the way that the Bible has been assembled, which is a bunch of books. I don't think that was a divine thing. I think there's much divine information in it, and who am I to try to sort out what's what? Like, I don't think we need it. I don't think we ever did. In our hearts, we know God's way.
What is the sin then that you think we need saved from? The belief in
it isn't to be saved from a sin. It's to be saved from the concept of sin.
Okay, the knowledge the knowledge of good.
Because we were told, if you do this, you're going to die, and then someone did something, and then be like, well, you're only going to live 120 years now, and since then we've been dying.
I'm with you.
Probably never would have. We probably believed like we create our own reality more than we think, and
yeah,
we were
I'm with you
deceived
way
into
more
dying
than you would
pretty much.
Well, just
I
because
think
it's
it's
called
really-
Catholic guilt doesn't mean it doesn't exist all the way through the entire religion. It's original sin, right? It's the fact that we must be, we have to find this one source for forgiveness and for salvation, and only just the one though, not all the others, right? So it's still just a divide and conquer bullshit.
What do you mean by not all the others? Biblically speaking,
Don't go to
explicitly
any other
states-
god but the Christ, right? You know, he is the one, the salvation, the embodiment of God.
Oh no, I meant like the first sin and every other sin afterwards. Like I don't
Just-
know that
just-
Isaiah's pretty damn clear about this. Like it's supposedly it's written out that basically God created everything, the dark and the light, the good and the evil. Like he's like, fuck it, I did it all.
But the dark
So-
is not isn't a creation, it's a destruction.
Well, if I may, I'd just like to
Can't
point
create-
something out.
you
You
can't
call
create
yourself an
evil. Who
agnostic,
cares
right?
what
So you
destruction?
believe in God.
Who? What? Huh?
Sorry.
Say that again.
Blind Spaghetti Monster believes the
Well, you
ancient
say you're an
pirate.
agnostic, so you believe in the possibility of God, right?
Yes, I believe in the possibility of God.
Okay.
And when I just make the distinction, it's not so much that I'm open to Christianity. It's more that I'm closed to materialism.
I'm just trying to steel man your point of view for this question. So if you believe in the possibility of God, I bring this up because you just pointed out the resurrection. But wouldn't you have to consider the act of creation a miracle?
No.
I mean, I think that it is miraculous. It depends on what you mean by miracle. As in something that has to be done by God.
Well, if you believe that God, from your point of view, that God is a possibility, then you subscribe to the fact that creation is a possibility, which is miraculous in its own. So wouldn't the resurrection be an entailment of that? Like, why is it so wild to you if you hold that option open? You know what I mean? Or like an immaculate birth. If you think that creation,
So I don't have any strong beliefs on creation. Because I don't have any strong evidence for it. Basically, my options seem to be bad and worse. So I really don't have any strong beliefs there. I will say, though, that there seems to be more evidence slightly towards design than there is towards just chaos erupting into this. But if you're trying to hinge my acceptance of resurrection on my belief in a creation, like a Genesis like creation, it's not gonna hang there well.
I just don't see how you can hold one belief and not the other.
Well, and so the reason I don't hold a creation belief is because I do not have the data necessary to make a strong belief about creation. I wasn't here for that. Nobody I know was. The reason I will make a strong belief about the resurrection is because I've been around death.
Yeah, but your belief in God, it hinges on the chicken or the egg or the first mover principle, which means like
No, it hinges on anecdotal experience. I don't have to know about all deaths to understand how death works. And then if somebody comes back from the dead, that means they weren't dead, because as defined, death is absolute, right? It's an absolute end to that physical existence.
yeah, but creation is a miracle. So how do you not believe in them?
It doesn't have to be a miracle. It can be a part of a science equation. It could be part of anything else.
No, it is a miracle because who creates a creator?
According to your authority, though, brother. So you
But
can't.
what
load the
makes it a
question that
miracle?
way.
I would say like the existence of God is a miracle.
Define what makes something a miracle or not.
Divine.
That defies logic, I suppose.
So
What
it
makes
defines
it
our understanding.
holy?
Maybe that's pushing a bit too far. I don't
No,
know.
I think that sounds like a good reason, a good explanation. It's something that we don't understand. So
But
by that,
the issue is either everything has always been moving and it's always been here, or something has created it and given it purpose. But if something did create and it did not have a creator to put it there, then that is a miracle. In a way,
So
I guess the
I
words
mean,
are
I can
getting
give you
choppy.
my thoughts on it just so you know where I sort of stand at, but I would never try to make an argument out of what I'm about to say. But
Sure.
I don't believe that we have the capacity. We certainly don't have the inputs, but I don't think we have the capacity probably to understand the beginning of everything. Just like an ant can understand calculus, I'm very comfortable with limits to our capacity mentally.
Accepting, sure.
For sure.
I
We have,
agree
we have a
with
hard
you for the
time
most part.
understanding always.
I think like people can get a fraction of truth and their minds will break. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Because of our perception of time.
Mm-hmm. In part.
Oh yeah, I suppose in part.
But I just what I'm trying to key in on is if you're agnostic, then you must be open to the idea of creation and miracles. So it seems a little departed from that when you take issue with the idea of miracles being possible in our lives.
Well, it's not that it's an impossible conclusion in my paradigm. It's that it's a terrible starting point.
How about the
Like-
starting point of, do you think, like when you're referring to creation or being or not a thing, so do you think it's even possible that we have what we have and we are what we are and we are, let's say, like I am, out of randomness of the universe?
No, I don't.
It's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I think it's nonsense.
So there had to be some sort of creation. Sort of like,
we
that's pretty much
assumed
what
there
that
did.
means.
We assumed there did because
Well, I guess
we experienced that ourselves, but that doesn't mean that that's how it has to be. And we actually don't know, what predated our birth. I guess, our earliest memories. I would say that we've got pretty shoddy foundation on which to build the necessity of a beginning and an end.
It's quite clear in the more they dive into quantum mechanic study, even though they're out to lunch with a lot of it, there is structure to reality. In fact, the closer they look and the more they experiment, the more clear it is. And that's why there was a point where a bunch of freaking scientists were like, well, there must be a God. And that's maybe perhaps an assumption, but
A lot of quantum physicists, yeah, they think they're actually, a lot of them think they're proving God. You guys got to get on to themonastery.org. They've got some great friggin' debates like this with some real in-depth astrological quantum physicists that are now Christians, are now Muslim, or that have gone to different religions and are proving God exists through sacred geometry.
That sentence didn't make a lot of sense, but I think that I know what you're.
Sacred geometry, man. It's divine. They're saying it's divine. So.
Well, I think that we can use math and probabilities and understand that probably Big Bang Theory followed by, I don't even know how evolution pretends to deal with the emergence of life.
It's like if I believe that the splitting of the atom is a miracle, no matter what the mechanism used was or why it split, just the fact that it split, I'm going to say that's a miracle, and I base my premise off of just that factor.
Maybe
do you mean a cell,
miracle.
a living cell?
Right. So then now we're talking about the Big Bang, say that was just an atom, and we're just a part of a little tiny system that, if you want to go with James Webb theory, like they're going way back in time now. Shit.
I think that the more we try to force an explanation when we don't have the necessary information inputs, the further we get from the truth.
And the more we know, we realize the more we don't know.
Then why do we do it, Flow State? It's fun. Why do we do it?
It's mentally satisfying.
Well, you call it mental masturbation, right?
Correct. It is mental masturbation.
A little bit of fuckery.
A little bit of fuckery, a little bit of egoicism, a little bit of oh shit, where's my hat?
Was it Novelist that was hitting on faith? You guys were hitting on faith earlier.
I don't think it's mental masturbation so much as people get tired of things and they just want to keep climbing the rungs of the ladder.
Distraction? You think we're distracting ourselves from our bleak existence?
No,
No.
I wouldn't call it a distraction.
I think some of us just want to know what's going on and are awed by the awesomeness of it and want to understand it. And some of us are trying to prove it through a theory of their belief in their one system, based on their want of their belief to want to believe in their own.
Agree. And I think that desire gets exploited, right? Because people like the Pope or whoever are going to fill in information they don't have into that system, pretend they have it.
I think I finally understand.
Instead of
now,
we think we're the only things in the universe that we're fooling
Tell
ourselves.
me about myself now, Joseph.
What you said about the Pope and exploiting people, and that's why you got an axe to grind. I think I get it now.
Because the Pope exploited me?
No, you say you're agnostic, but you think people are being exploited.
Oh, they are.
And that's why you don't always have the most positive.
Hey, Kenny Copeland needs a new jet, bro. Okay?
Bro
He
needs
needs
a
it.
new jet. He needs a new
Ken
Jeep.
Copeland, he needs that new jet, bro.
And here's what we'll do. Again, if the dono excess exceeds what the need is, then we'll make sure to put it where the need goes. Either way, we'll make sure.
And if you appreciate this sort of content more than you like drama content, now's a good time to donate and let that be known. Drama content brings slightly bigger numbers, but way bigger dono numbers. And as much as I love y'all, I can't just do this for free.
Where do you think that money's coming from?
The money that I get?
No, for negative content.
Oh,
I'm just a conspiracy theorist, man.
Oh,
people pay to keep that shit going.
People love to be able to take a shot or to protect somebody. And so in conversations like this, there's no victim that needs defended or adversary to get one over on.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Flo's the modern day Jerry Springer. Look at him go.
And look at you.
You guys were hitting on faith earlier, and kind of getting down to the,
I was
nitty-gritty.
hitting on Fizzy Pop. I don't know who you were hitting on. Go
Well,
ahead.
I don't know who Amber Gurr is either, but she really wants Nephew Fatty's money for the Hamburger Fund.
All right.
Going back to what you were saying,
It's a grift, bro.
sin
It's all a
and,
grift. There's more than one
no.
people grifting off of humanity right now. You can't see that?
Sometimes it's not a grift when people just want to give somebody a tip.
Go ahead, DeFreak. Yeah, and right now I keep pointing that out.
Sin or whatever, keeping anyone out of heaven. I think it's just basically an acknowledgement that he's God and we're not at this point.
Why would we need that to know that? I mean, or why?
Well, we need to know that so that we don't think that we can rebel in his kingdom again. Otherwise, it's going to be another eternal cycle of purging the darkness, because he does discard a few things eventually.
Okay.
What is the spaghetti Grinch supposed to do with that, bro? Because, in
The
Whoville,
spaghetti
we don't
Grinch
believe in
wondered
that stuff.
He's supposed to believe in Jesus Christ.
Conversation.
According to you, though, bro, like, what's wrong with people
You need
believing
to-
in any
you
God
need
they
to
want
give
to,
us something better than this. Than I'm gonna
because
call it
there's
a
more
trope.
than this to it. Flo.
God damn it, Uncle Fatty! You need to understand how conversations work. DeFreak, I need something better than the worn out tropes. And yes, I call them tropes on purpose because that's what the fuck they are. Uncle Fatty, do you have something to interject, some noise to make?
The fact that he was here, he declared him, and he actually walked the earth, means that he's the only surety that you have that there's one, an afterlife, and two, that you will go to heaven.
Okay,
So
you're
did
making
Buddha.
a claim. You're making a claim that you cannot stand on.
Sure, I can. I've got history, I've got archaeology, I've got prophecy, and I've got testimony, written testimony, and the scripture. All
Okay.
testifying against you, by the way.
Start with archaeology. Start with that one. Show me.
I got
show
a
me-
hot take on this one.
Egypt
Josh,
exists, the
let
Red
Josh
Sea exists, Syria exists, Damascus exists.
Did Buddha
Babylon was
exist?
a thing. Assyria was
Buddha
a
a man?
thing.
Did Buddha
Mount
live on
Sinai is
Earth?
a thing. Okay,
Yeah,
next.
Buddha existed.
Okay, so appeal to his authority then, and see where that goes. It's all the same. DeFreak, come on.
None of these are all tangential though. This is all backdrop. None of it is the linchpin of Christianity, which is that Jesus died for your sins.
Right, but you have history and archaeology backing up that claim.
The fuck if you do.
Yeah, just to be fair, like if we go back to the book, right, there were multiple messiahs in that same book. So which one are you talking about?
Well, if you're going into the whole Judaism part, then
Tacitus, Josephus, we can take them all, right? You're going to have to point to which one. Which, if you point at one, right, it's going to break somebody's timeline.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but
so Tacitus, collectively between Tacitus and Josephus, you've got about somewhere between 7 and 12. Some of them could have overlapped. We don't know for sure, but you've got somewhere between 7 and 12 messiahs, aka.
So you don't know any of that, but you're willing to say you don't know any of that, but Jesus Christ is definitely false.
I'm not making the claim that a messiah was false. I'm highly believe that a dude was basically executed as a state or a defined state terrorist. That's what the hell that's why they were chasing him around. All of those messiahs were all executed.
Okay. But he's the one who was in the temple and made the claim, right?
Okay.
And has witnesses, has books written about him. We divide history and time by him. The planets aligned by him.
Right. You would be appealing. I'm guessing you're talking about like when Jesus was like in the temple and basically flipping tables, going off on the Pharisees. That kind of that story specifically.
Not that one specifically, but when he said that it was him basically in the when he was in the treasury saying that the Father and I are one. He could flat out say that I'm God because he was still just human at that time.
Oh, okay. That's what we're talking about. How do you know somebody said exactly that thing?
Well, I mean, it's in John 8 or 10.
Okay, it's a book. I gotcha. Now, does that imply that any book that makes any claim must necessarily be true?
No, but you have other people that author different books, cross-referencing it and collaborating with it, which makes it the higher probability that it is true.
Yes. Now, are we allowed to accept all of those authors?
Well, sure, but I think the church did what it did in order to kind of streamline the process. But that's just
right. And I got no problems with it, right? But some of those authors also made some other claims that kind of a little bit contradictory. It's why we've got the Apocrypha. And I don't mean just one Apocrypha. There's like a whole long series of Apocryphas, right? This is why all of that shit became a problem, is because it didn't fit one narrative versus another.
I don't know. I think they just tried to streamline it to get you to Jesus Christ as quick as possible.
All of them?
No, all of them exist. They probably, I haven't read all of them. They all exist, and they probably have truth in them. But the assembly of the books, the assembly of what we call the Bible now, is kind of like a streamlined, like the get quick rich, scheme version, I guess, or I don't know.
That's the problem.
You're probably so right about that.
And I got no contention with Christianity. I'm actually I'm a little bit worse than Flo, right? I'm an atheist, right? I'm just also a Christian nationalist. But
Which
at least
is way worse than me. You're worse.
Yeah, way worse, right? Because like Flo is like, I'm gonna sit around and wait for more information. Me, I'm gonna be like, fuck it, right? I want that goal that's being put, within the Bible, aka I want women in the damn kitchen chained up, right? I want to take their right to vote away. I want to take that Bible that you have, right, and beat people with it. But that puts me like in the asshole category, right?
The satanic Christian, sadist, masochist.
Sure. Yeah, whatever's in there, right? But I have a shared goal, So this is why I can run with the Christians all day long, no problem, right? It's just a shared goal. The stuff that's in it, as far as I'm concerned, could just be a bunch of old people sat around, came up with some stories. Somebody collaborated, wrote those stories down, right? Be no different than, like, say, Grandpa writing a journal saying, hey, don't do this, don't touch fire, it'll hurt, it'll burn you, that kind of thing. We could call it truth. I'm fine with that, right? But it's the extraordinary claims that go in there. I think Christianity makes the mistake of trying to argue faith as in it's this provable, demonstrable thing. If it was provable, it wouldn't be faith. So it's like arguing your own position out of existence.
I understand what you're saying.
I would say faith is the tool that's being used against the people, because, like we went over before in the broadcast, they were saying that faith
is the
what we
expectation of
determine
future
as
knowledge.
truth, right? What we determine as truth is dependent on what we believe in, what we trust with the information we've gathered, right? So, with faith being everything that we are, I say we would know no truth, because we wouldn't have anything to believe in. Faith is belief. Faith is trust, right? If we can't trust the collective of information around us, how can we determine as a group, as a society, what our perception of truth is?
Oh, hold up. No. That's going a little bit too far, right? We don't get to determine.
Why is that too far?
Because we don't. Okay, so from us on the non-believing side here, right? We don't get to define what faith is. They claim to have it. Let them define it.
Joshua,
Faith
you're
is an expectation.
They're defining it. They're defining what their interpretation of faith needs to be based on, or
sir, Joseph,
or that it has to do with anything to do with a holy power at all, right? Because I have faith that what everybody collectively says around me is true, just like everybody else does. We have societal norms. That's what societal norms are, right?
Yeah, I think you might be kidnapping that word hope, right, and adding your own sprinkle of something. I think that's a nasty way of going about it.
What is faith, right?
I don't know. I lack it, right? I don't have that faith, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, look, they're coming up with this word. It's their word to define. Let them figure it out. I'm fine being a student, right? But I also think from our perspective, we're going too damn far if we're going to start using their words and saying, no, when you say this word faith, this is really what you mean.
No, it's just the simple breakdown of the word that faith is trust, right? Faith is
then why not use the word trust?
Belief, right?
If it's just trust, why not use the word trust?
Why not? Right.
Yeah, because that just implies that we don't understand what they mean by faith, which is fine. Let them have it.
There's a definition of what it is. It's a belief in a higher existence when it comes to the subject of which you're believing upon.
Without evidence, right? No problem.
Yeah.
But let them have that. Let them define that, right? They're the ones that want this thing. Fine, go search it out.
Other religions have faith as well. It's not about the religion. It's just about the fact of the information, right? It's dependent. It is dependent 100% on the information at hand. It can't.
Right, but why are we content? Yeah, that's the thing. So my contention is why are we contending with them? Why? Here, I'll give an example. Lemaitre was a fucking Catholic priest. Right, like this is the guy that comes up with what we later believe it, or what we later call is the Big Bang Theory. That's not what he called it, right? But this is a thing that created a whole bunch of other led to a whole bunch of other discoveries. Right? They're doing just fine on their own. Let them do their thing.
So wait, the Christian invented the Big Bang Theory as well as the periodic table? That's pretty far out.
There's Christianity led to a huge number of discoveries. The whole idea that curiosity is this negative thing is like bunk ass bullshit. That's where all the good stuff comes from.
Joshua, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What do you think the Big Bang Theory is? Do you think that's
mathematical formula for expansion? Unless you start adding Hubble.
To
Unless you
finish
start
my
adding,
question, do you think it's a creation story or do you think it's a
no,
process?
no. It's a mathematical formula of expansion. Hubble came on top of that. There's technically 3 authors to it. It's kind of like a 3-in-1. It
Well,
just
hold on.
came.
Just before you get too deep in, just a couple questions. So, the Big Bang wasn't a creation process, so it's a process that goes on throughout eternity. Or you're saying that
Whoa, no. There's no.
well, it's
There
one of
wouldn't
the
be a
two.
no because it was a contention from compression and expansion, right? It still doesn't answer the question of whether. So like when we look out, so like this is the thing.
Well,
You
just
can't.
hold on. Just answer my question though. Is it the creation or is it a
No.
process that has something before it?
It's a process of expansion. That's it.
That has something before it?
It's believed to, yes. Something had to cause the expansion if it is in fact the case that it is expansion. But it would be the same
No, it
thing with
would be
compression.
something would have to cause a compression.
Yeah, or it could be a cycle system. Nobody knows. It doesn't. We don't. There are no tools to go farther back.
From an atheist's point of view, there's entailments to this. So, if the Big Bang Theory is not the creation of existence, then there's something that predates it. So, the Big Bang Theory is basically all mass gravitates and creates a focal point and then blows up, and then our universe is created, right?
Right, except for there's also no explosion in that, right? It's just expansion.
Is there a focal point of mass that
Yes
shoots out?
There was that was his interest, was to look for like where the origin was.
Sure.
Like,
Go ahead.
Yeah, like the dude just went looking for, so like it had to start somewhere. That's kind of the thing that got him in that idea. He was like, well, okay, where could that possibly be?
Right. So in your point of view, the Big Bang Theory would be a process playing out throughout eternity, right? Or do you believe in the heat death? Are you heat deather?
I don't have a belief one way or the other. I have a whole series of questions that will never be answered within my lifetime, for sure.
Okay,
What the
but
hell is the heat deather?
The heat death is basically that the Big Bang happened and everything is moving away from each other throughout eternity. Space is infinite, so everything since the Big Bang has been moving through a vacuum away from each other to a point where eventually all atoms and protons and things on a microscope or subatomic level will stop moving, and then basically life stops. And that's why I was asking Joshua about this, because if you believe in the Big Bang, then you have to understand that gravity contracts mass together. So he
Yes.
says everything blows outwards away from one another, but things also mass attracts back to one another.
Right, that would be the cycle system. We don't know for sure. We're never going to live like a couple billion years to be able to even get a minuscule measurement off of that. We're just going to guess. That's all we can do.
Right. So when you invoke the Big Bang Theory in some type of creation discussion, it's kind of moot because all you're trying to say is mass.
No,
mass attracts and then it explodes like.
Yeah, no, I invoked the Big Bang Theory because it was a Christian that decided, or I believe a Christian, right? I don't know for sure, right? But it was a guy that basically had an insane amount of curiosity and he went looking for a thing. His discovery, myself, I kind of hate the idea that it keeps like drawing us back to having to deal with the light, but there's also a lot of other discoveries that came about because of him. This is why I said,
what was his motivation, Josh? What was his motivation? What was his motivation? Right?
He went looking for
how fast things were going, or to find that speed in order to
his motivation,
so he could find where it came from and where the singular was.
Yeah, no. His motivation, no, not even that deep, right? His motivation was he was wanting to find some type of physical thing to demonstrate God. It's literally that simple. And that's according to his journals, right? Yeah. Which is fine. Let him do it. Yeah. It benefited a whole lot of people for a whole lot of things. This is why I said, leave them alone and let them do what the hell they're going to do.
The James Webb is now saying that things are moving faster than we ever thought it could have. right? Even as far out as we can see that it's actually moving faster there than it is here now. So it's
Yeah,
like
that just-
reversing a bunch of weird formulas, you know. So like
There could be gravitational fields. There could be planets with heavier mass than.
Yeah, there could
you
be
know,
all kinds
like
of.
we have a
like,
metric on Earth we judge other planets by, but
Yeah,
maybe they have
according
a
to
heavier
what
metal,
they're
a
saying there
heavier
is,
mass,
though.
a heavier core, which would
it's
pull
not
them in.
it's not a matter of could. They're saying it is a matter of is.
Well, I'm just pontificating.
The
Right,
idea
right.
of
Right,
the
but we
idea
have to
of
assume that
everything spreading apart forever doesn't pan out, because even individual atoms, molecules, the solar system, a whole galaxy is not falling apart. It would only be the expansion between galaxies.
Right.
So everything would not come to a stop. That, and I don't understand it would be a burning thing. It would be like a cooling thing, what was described.
And
But
it also seems like they're granting themselves a threshold where gravity no longer happens. So like if you have
Right.
a rock, you have two
Which means
rocks
no atom
of
would
the
even go
same
together.
mass. If you throw a rock so far away in the galaxy that gravity no longer acts on it, and I've never seen any proof in that. You know what I mean?
Kind of, yeah. I don't really see
Maybe not.
gravity separate
Well,
from
so-
magnetics, but yeah.
And I also want to point out, right, like calling it heat death, it ain't like everything's going to burn up, right? It's just this colloquial term that people come up with. Really, what they're talking about is the process by which things happen, right, has a difference in temperature. It's just making a claim based on those differences cease to basically be different. Not that anything would be hot or cold or anything like that, right? But it's the same thing with like Big Bang. It was Hoyle that came up with this fucking term, right? It's just these colloquial terms that we refer to, I guess, for easy communication. It just is what it is. But my point here is from a non-theist position, right? We got to stop this bullshit. Going after Christians because they believe what the hell they believe. Who fucking cares? They as best as we can tell.
As a Christian, I'll tell you, I care when we start forcing this shit onto other people.
Now, hold up. Now,
How about that?
How about traditions?
Whose traditions?
Always.
Traditions change. Traditions change, bro. Set
If
your own.
it changes, it can't, by definition, can't be a tradition.
It only has to go on twice
Who's
in
hold
a
on.
succession for it to be a tradition.
Who's forcing it on you, fatty?
Nobody's for. Okay, you want to make laws, right, that say that your God gets to be in school and your God gets to be a part of a government. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then that's un-American. Fuck you.
Well,
How about that?
That's the society you live in now.
That's
which is
America. Everybody gets to exist. Okay, why don't we have these laws already then?
Its footprints are all over your society.
It doesn't matter if the footprints are there, dumb fuck.
It's in your
it matters
government.
why. Why are we not declared?
You're saying you don't want it in there because you're being forced. I'm asking, how are you being forced? And you're saying, well, if it's in our society, and I'm saying it's in your society, what are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't. What are you saying? You're saying we're gonna sit little kid. We're gonna
When
come
we
to
as
your house. We're
Christians-
gonna take
when we
your
as Christians
kids.
start putting our faith before everybody else's in America and start making laws dependent upon our God, saying that you must adhere to this, and we're going to put the 10 Commandments in schools, we're going to put the 10 Commandments on the churches, and we're going to put 10 Commandments on the fucking courthouses. You're telling everybody else that they should not exist here, and everybody gets to exist here in America. Whether you want a God, whether you don't want a God, or whether you believe in a different fucking God. It
Yeah,
doesn't
we
really
already
matter.
have
And we
those
don't force our
symbols
shit onto
all
other people.
over.
But we have conversations where we don't have to force our God into the conversation.
Are you
for our-
prepared?
for our relevance?
Are you prepared to accept the consequences with? Let's just say there's two
I
options.
signed that contract a long time ago, bro.
Okay, so
Yeah,
could it
I'm
be
ready
the
to face
case?
the consequences.
Let's
Because there are none.
Listen,
Sir,
Patty,
this is
no,
perpetual-
this
this is
little
a- this is a
secular
per-
utopia.
This is perpetual energy. Okay, this is what it comes down to. Atomics, right? At the subatomic level, I believe that splitting an atom is a miracle. because energy can never not exist. We know there's an infinite amount of energy. We can't even measure it. But we cannot find a place where energy ceases to exist. Because
Hold
even
on.
when it goes somewhere,
we know there's
right,
an
it becomes
infinite amount of energy
an atom
somewhere?
again, and that atom can always split again.
Infinite.
It's quantum atomic quantum bullshit.
An
So,
atom or an electron?
I don't know, dude. Consult the fucking writer of the fucking theory. But you got to be able to think. As Christians, we have to be able to think beyond the fact that our God holds the authority. Because when we do, when we label other people as evil and come to a conversation, you know what we do? We create a logical fallacy.
So
we create an assumption of authority.
No.
I don't see how being Christian and telling people about God is being evil.
Because you're holding it against them as if any other option is false. When
Well, a lot of Christians
all
do that,
all options are on the table.
Bro,
And when
you
you come
think
to
you
the
can hold a
assumption,
gun
you
to
come to the
someone's
table
head and make
with
them
the
believe in
assumption that
Christ?
only my shit matters, and I'm here to teach these people. I'm
Oh,
here
wait,
to
wait,
save
wait,
these
wait,
people.
wait, wait, wait.
Whatever the
Let's
fuck
take-
it is,
let's
okay,
take-
you're not coming in good faith.
No,
That's why I asked
no.
who else has declared the Father in the temple or whatever,
The Great
and made
Spaghetti
that
Monster did it.
declaration.
Prove it didn't
And
happen.
Because we have the book, we have history, we have archaeology,
Dude,
we have
can I put a
prophecy.
pearl necklace on you so you can have something to grab onto and clutch?
Yeah, man, that's all set in stone in linear time. It can't be changed.
As a Christian, I'm telling you, bro, we can't use that argument. That creates a
Alright.
logical fallacy.
Why?
That's an
Because
assumption
who-
of authority.
who else of any of
Therefore,
these
we
other
lose the
religions have
argument
done
before we
that?
get to the table.
Who else has declared him and was resurrected by him?
Who declared that any other God came to the earth?
Everybody.
Who declared
Right, according to
anything
you.
ever? What does your assumption to that authority matter? That's such a... It goes nowhere.
Because don't you want to know who
Goes
he
nowhere.
is? If you think there
personally,
is one,
I do.
wouldn't you want to know
But
who
we're
he
not
is?
talking about how I feel, right? We don't want to be all up in our feelers.
But
right?
even just having
we
the
want to
knowledge,
be
or
in
knowing
our
the
rational,
truth.
right? In our cognitive.
All right.
Because when we're in our feelers, like our feelers will bind us by our God. We can't assume that anything else can exist without that.
I would say that if you're not willing to fight for your God, I get to destroy him and you with him.
I say you tell somebody something 3 times and they'll hear you. You tell them 30 times, they'll believe you. You tell them 300 times, they'll fight for you. And you tell them 3,000 times and they'll fucking die for you.
Is that why Christianity? Well, okay. Is that why?
Yeah, that's why.
Christianity
Yes, that's exactly why Christianity
within the West.
exists. Yes.
Its population
Yes.
within the West
Because
is
kids are
going
programmed to believe that shit when they're growing up, and other kids are programmed to believe other shit when they're growing up.
Dude, listen, you're flat out wrong. We as a
How?
country
Tell
need
me
to
how
have.
I'm wrong.
I'm going to tell you how you're wrong right
where
now.
you
So
grew
be
up
quiet
doesn't
and
determine
listen.
what religion you came. Tell me that you could have grown up in fucking India and became the Christian man that you are right now.
Are you done?
Tell me that.
It's
because
possible,
you know you
but-
fucking can't.
I'm about to if you'll stop talking.
I'll mute up. Thanks, bro. Tell me.
Yeah.
I want to hear
So-
this answer.
We in America have Christian values, and we need that as a national identity. Although we're not going to sit here and put a gun to somebody's head and say, you can't practice this faith, you can't
We've
practice.
never had that identity before. Why do we need it now?
Who were the
Our
Puritans?
country was
Oh, no.
founded.
Who were the Puritans?
Listen,
America
I'm
was-
just berging, and I'll finish. This country was founded on it. Everybody who founded this
Yeah.
country was Christian, okay? We need
Christians
those values.
being persecuted by
Listen,
other
just
Christians came and
stop
found
for
this
a
country.
second. Stop.
Right.
If you
Right?
want a big melting pot, you can look around the world and see how that goes. At some point, you need to put your foot in the sand and say, this is how our country is going to go. And we need some type of assimilation to that. These values stick.
We do that every 2 or 3 or 4 years.
There's
bro.
nothing wrong with it.
That's why we
There's
changed
nothing wrong
laws.
with having, putting your hand on the Bible in court. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
There's nothing. You can put your hand on anything you want in court. It doesn't have to be a Bible.
Listen, if you
understand
want to
that,
have
right?
some ambiguous society with no
Like
national
our
religion,
elected
what's going to
officials don't
happen?
have to swear on the
What's going
Bible,
to happen
right?
at the end of the day is some population will rise and will take control of it because that's the natural order of things. And you're being a little juvenile pretending like
According
it's
to
not that
your
way.
authority, though,
Or maybe
bro,
you should
again.
man up and stick up for Christianity in America a bit more. How about that?
I think Christianity is
Why?
strong
No.
enough without having to be inserted by law or regulation.
Why does Christianity need my humble help? Are you fucking? Am I that? It's just
Well, it
so
It'll
that
be
doesn't
I
taken
need
away
to
from the
move the
foundation of
scale of
anything.
Christianity? You think oh my God, really?
You do
Thank
need
for-
something.
Thank you, but I tend not to believe in pride and ego. That's 2 of the 7 deadly sins, right?
If you don't have at least the sort of Judaic background of some sort of something
You do
to
not
reference
need that
to,
as an American.
if you
to
don't
grow up
have
here.
I didn't say you need it. The nation doesn't have it. Society, if society doesn't have it, then logic is just going to produce some pretty nasty shit.
Hold up, let's get this figured out.
Why?
Fatty, are you?
Who did I
are
just
you-
kick from stage on accident?
Damn it! When he returns, somebody
Okay,
please
well,
ask-
whoever it is, if I kicked you from stage on accident, I apologize. I was trying to kick Uncle Fatty. Till I'm done taking a shit, he'll stay backstage.
So if somebody gets the chance, please ask Fatty what is more of a priority to him. Is God more of a priority, or is America more of a priority to him? Just flat out ask.
Yeah, and on top of that, you don't get to have a secular society. It's people are going to naturally come to these questions. So you're going to have some type of religious foundation in your society. And do you want like 40 different warring tribes as your national identity? No, that's not how this country was founded.
Oh, I strongly
Well,
agree with you.
I don't think you need to put it into the
Yeah,
government to assert that quote unquote dominance of your religion. I think the religion takes care of it on its own.
Can we like say the Pledge of Allegiance in school?
I don't see a problem with that. I mean, but
Well, that's fine, right?
I mean, I
was
think
fucked
it's all
up,
right.
Actually,
No,
you shouldn't be pledging allegiance to what? A flag?
to some common concept that builds cohesion and shared values.
That
Exactly.
sounds nice, but that's
Yeah,
not actually
well,
what you're
At least
doing.
you get it.
I agree
What
with
are you
that, but
doing?
that's not actually what you're doing.
What are you doing?
That's what I'm asking you. I'm Canadian. What are you doing? You're pledging allegiance to a flag or to the name of a country? To what?
To the notion of the country of that it's worth fighting for, it's worth standing for, it's worth being in, it's worth having those values.
But
Even though
you're
it hasn't been, but
you're using
yeah.
a flag.
But people don't have that view.
Yes.
They don't have that predicate view. People think that you're pledging allegiance to a corrupt nation that's doing nation building and colonialism all over the planet. So if you do that, if you ever pledge allegiance to your country, you're inherently bad. So so from the gate, you can't even have that type of national identity. And what I'm trying to say is, no, you can have some type of Christian foundation in your country. Maybe it can intermingle with the government to some extent, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. That's part of being a community, is that you have some type of shared common value, and that's something that should be fostered and not squawked at.
Yeah.
By people like Fatty, who's now backstage, I think. Sorry, Fatty, you're not here to defend yourself, but sounds silly, bro.
Generally, I even think like the flag, you shouldn't be. There's actually 10 Commandment to it, but not that that's the deal. 10 Commandments is like nothing great in it. Or no, sorry, whatever. I'll avoid that. But yeah, the fact it's a physical item, it's a flag. It's a form of idol. Like it's a physical thing. Now, what you say, your people agreeing to a certain way of life and getting along. It's great. It's not really what you're doing, but people may think that, and which counts for a lot, might I add. And that has the same with the whole Judaic background, is that there is good intent, even if they were being deceived. There's still the intent that they thought it's one true God. It is the creator of all. Let's say if someone's at least thinks that that's what they're following, then the intent means a lot. But the outcome can be nasty because you're being deceived. Yeah. So I don't think anybody should be pledging allegiance to anything in the physical, or using any physical, even the cross is.
What about your family?
Pardon?
Would it be okay to pledge allegiance to your family? Or
I
just
guess
nothing? There's nothing
shouldn't
we'd
be
pledge
necessary.
allegiance to.
No, even repetitive words is not a godly thing. I don't think, to be using repetitive words for anything.
How do you feel about the word duty?
Duty? You have a duty?
Do you think you
No,
have a
God
duty?
gave you free will. You have a duty if you want to live in His light and make creation better and not be destructive. Then
so duty
that would require, I guess, a duty if you know, in a sense. But even then, that's not the case.
So you don't think people who are secular feel they have a duty to anything, like country or community?
It's like subversion of communist subversion.
Oh, it can be a great thing in the physical realm. It could be a horrible thing too. Like, do you have a duty? Is that what you're asking generally? No, you don't have to have one.
All right.
But bad things will come if you do bad shit.
Yeah, I disagree, but if you think you can just go wander off in the woods and you don't really have a duty to anyone, I don't know.
To your family?
I don't.
Yeah,
have
I mean,
putting to
you
argue
owe.
that,
Do you
so.
owe your family? I guess, man, you probably have a point. Yeah, because not doing so is going to be destructive to them. So yeah, I guess if I was being too overview, perhaps, or coming at it from too far away there. Sure, in the physical realm, we're stuck here.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with pledging allegiance to something.
I don't think to your family. I don't think it's necessary. Like, no, you don't need to. Is it wrong? It's not a great practice to use repetitive words.
So it's not a necessity, so it shouldn't be done. There's no utility in it. It's just a bad thing we should abolish.
It's a dangerous practice because it's kind of like you're not thinking for yourself. You're giving some of your own thought over, right? When you pledge allegiance.
What about fostering community and groups? Do you think it has
Fostering
any
them?
utility? Yeah, like just
To have for them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fantastic. But
So
they can
maybe
be
there is a
horrible, too.
utility for allegiance, and maybe it should be, done in school.
No, I don't think it's a good practice, bro.
All right, fair
I don't
enough.
think it's God's way.
I don't think I'm going to convince you.
No, I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not bad. It's a bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. To tell you, it certainly sets up a structure that is, like any structure in society, is vulnerable to be taken over and or manipulated by evil. So yeah, bad practice.
Sure, but I don't think the possibility for corruption creates a standard where we shouldn't even go after it.
Or yeah, I mean, you're right.
I think the cost benefit analysis is like
But it's
pledging
just
allegiance
dangerous.
to the flag is great. We should do it. We should try to do it in a very thoughtful way.
And so that's what America is, right? Like, okay, we'll have a power structure, but we'll keep it split up.
National identity is huge. I think that's something important that people lose sight of in the melting pot idea of America, which in my opinion has been a big gaslighting campaign a long time. We've never been a huge melting pot country. We've treated people like shit when they came in here. We've always been that way. Maybe we're a little bit different nowadays. Probably a lot of bit different, but still, we need to have a national identity. There's nothing wrong with that.
If you're in a war, you want to know who the heck is on your side. If you can't identify the enemy, then you're gonna get killed.
And it's even more simple than that. It's like, do you want somebody who's radically different than you living next door to you, who has different morale? Like anything, like people find we are kindred spirits. We find comfort in people who are like us. So It's not throwing rocks at anybody to say like, I want people like me around me. That's fine. It's a perfectly acceptable thing to say because that's how people are. That's how people are all over the world. There's nowhere you're going to go where it's any different. So I don't know why we play pretend like that's a bad thing.
I don't either, unless you're talking about communist subversion.
So if we pledge allegiance, all our neighbors will think the same way that we do.
Well,
no.
Okay.
What I was talking about is pledging allegiance to the flag when you're in like 4th grade. I'm sure you remember doing that, Flo.
I remember doing it in
That's a
preschool.
thing we did back in the day. Yeah.
I remember it in preschool and kindergarten. What
You
is the utility?
You probably didn't even understand what you were doing.
No, none of us did. Did you?
Yeah. No. Not till I remember getting my first round of civics class in 4th grade, learning how the political system works in America. And looking back now, how fucking stupid that is. I don't know who got away with trying to teach 4th graders how the political system works because yeah,
But what
it's
is the
just
utility in
mind-boggling.
having children chant something that they don't understand?
It's conditioning, you know.
Yeah. So, do you think that conditioning? Do you think? Let me angle it this way. Are kids better off individually, as an individual? Are you better off having been conditioned?
Hopefully, yes. I would say the first safeguard in this is homeschooling. I'm not a big fan of public schools, but if we're trying to create a national identity, I would lean towards the conditioning. Yeah. But I would want it to be wielded in my ethic and my worldview. Then it's
Well, yeah,
okay. But if somebody with a different worldview tries to wield it, or like way outside of the mainstream of American norm, then I would be against it.
I'll just jump. I won't drag you through the leading questions. I think that if you have to program somebody at an age before they understand what they're being programmed with, that's the tell right there, and it's never in their best interest.
Not necessarily, though.
Hold on,
Flo,
let me
because
finish
you
the
would
thought. Hold on,
condition your
let me
son
finish
for
the whole thought, and then
All
you
right.
can. The other part of that is that if you cannot trust that it's in the best interest of the individual, you cannot trust that it will work out in the best interest of the collective. In fact, you got good evidence the opposite. Now go ahead. That's the whole thing.
Sure. So I would say conditioning is fine. We all do it. We do it to our children. We condition them to not be pussies when they scrape their knee. Anything from that, stop crying, buck up your chin, to hard work ethic, stuff like that. We do it all the time. And then I had another point that I just alluded.
If it adds to like social cohesion, I think it's a good thing generally.
Out of
Then
all the
why would they
influence
have-
on your kids, how much do we have? How much do parents actually have? Does society hold?
It depends on
No.
the years. If you're talking about early, like the first 5 years, a ton. If you're talking about later childhood, very little.
Yeah. I mean, society is going to determine what those norms are. When
remember
kids
my
are supposed to
second point.
cry and when they're not, and all that bullshit, right? But like,
My second point is we have pretty recent scenarios of pushback in culture that correct for that. So without getting too in the weeds on it, you had certain sexual identity ideology that got pushed back on. You had some stuff in major boycotts going on.
Brother, what's that?
Sorry, I just had to do.
Well, it's a tangible real world experience that just recently happened. So you can see how that works.
But I would think that the message being conditioning does happen all the time. I think that what is being conditioned, if you've got something like the Pledge of Allegiance, or I view religion the same way, where you really you got to get them before they can think critically on their own. That's telling, right? We don't need to be programmed to, I don't know, pick up $1 if we see it laying on the ground, right? That's obviously in our self-interest, so we'll pick it up. You only need to get conditioned and programmed very young with things that are not obviously true.
But you're
Or-
thinking in terms of the ideology that it's portraying, not necessarily the social cohesion of the group inclusion that it brings.
Well, you can have group cohesion around anything at all. So I think that group cohesion that's a byproduct of the fact that it's being disseminated on a group scale.
Bro, have you ever seen 4 women in a room? You're not going to get
Yeah.
away from it.
Wait.
That's
You're
the
not
way
what?
we track.
Only
As
4?
Varun, talk to us, homie.
Yeah. I know the conversation was pretty interesting. So, like, to be honest, like, even I was listening to your perspectives on free will, on conditioning, on whether it's good to have an identity like a nation or not, whether it's good to condition children. So, to be honest, like, the conversations are pretty interesting, actually. Everyone's
Okay.
points are pretty interesting.
But mine are right.
You know, a lot of our learning at a very young age is done that way. You're singing songs like the alphabet song. You're singing, you're being conditioned, and while you're learning in those very early, schooling.
But we'll always be conditioned. We can't escape it. Like something or the other, our fate is never under our control. Otherwise, the world would never be in such a sorry state. It's like you're going to get hit, but you're unable to control it. What can you do about it? You're conditioned to get hit. From my experience, it's very tough to control every external factor or even internal factor in your life. No one wants to fall sick and die, but they fall sick and die. No one wants to go through problems in life, but the life is filled with problems. So it's always what they don't want that happens most of the time, and they're stuck in the cycle of not getting what they want most of the time. They're conditioned. They being conditioned plays a huge role in this, and seeing the way things are. That's why I feel that there's no free will. Also, actually, if it existed, we'd be like gods ruling over multiverses.
No, you're doing so good, and then you end it that way.
Pledge allegiance
also,
to India without the curry, and I'm good to go.
D, what did you say about, what was it, chanted or repetitive words? What's that? That commented.
I don't think there should be any repetitive words used. Of course, the extreme of that is magic. It would be, like spell shit or whatever. Why? You're well, either one of two things, I guess, because different reasons why you do it. In the case of the allegiance, you're giving, or anything similar in that nature, you're giving some of your free will over. That was given to you by God, and that's not something you should be ever giving over, really. It doesn't mean you don't participate in anything, but when it comes to the intent. And then there's the magic thing, repetitive words, whatever, for whatever sort
Is
of
this like biblical,
to
or-
try to get something out of it. No, this is just my view. But there's a lot of biblical information based comes from it, sure, for sure. But to get an outcome, basically to fulfill a want, you have a want which is bad, usually pretty bad in the first place. If you do repetitive words, it's like you become dependent upon that. Like even if you use physical things, magic wands, whatever symbolism bullshit
Bro,
the world has to offer, when you use that, you become dependent upon it in your existence. You think you need that now, right? You take it away, I can't do it. Of course you can. You're God's children. You can do anything when you grow up, right? You don't need that shit.
The symbols and the idols, right?
Everything, anything you become dependent upon in the physical realm. Yes, don't be of the world.
It caught my attention because I kind of came to the same conclusion about, I still listen to all sorts of trash music, but I don't sing along with it because it's, I view it like mantras. It's like a mantra, and the repetition bypasses your logical thought and communicates directly to your subconscious.
Bro,
That's why
do
the
you
PMRC
put- do
didn't
you
like
put
Twisted
your cell
Sister.
phone in your pocket, or do you set it on the counter?
I set it on the counter typically, unless I need it in my pocket.
Checks out.
I'll put my own words in and say like with Rage Against the Machine or something.
I also put electrical tape over my cameras when I'm not using them.
Oh, same. Absolutely.
And let me shout out to Plumpy and Joe Cool, each sending in $5 to let me know that they appreciate this sort of content.
Drop some fucking bombs.
And keep Christ. Oh, Plumpy also says to keep Christ in Christmas. So let me do some booms.
When you hear the sirens or anti-aircraft guns, you must get under cover at once. If you're in the open with no cover, lie down. The most important rule of all is never to stand staring at the sky. If you don't take cover, you may get hurt.
And while I've got your attention, if you prefer the type of conversations that like we're having tonight, as opposed to drama content, donate. Let that be known, because, like I mentioned, numbers are slightly higher for drama content, not a ton, but they are higher. But the revenue is just, it's like orders of magnitude difference between what drama pays out to me as a content creator and what topics like this do. So if you prefer this, let that be known. And
you need a God model.
What's the God model?
Well, you need a God model of what do you call it, capitalism or whatever for YouTube panels.
Well, I don't know that, from what I've observed of God and his money management, I don't know that the God model would help me out much. It seems like God can do everything except for manage his own money. Then every Sunday he's like that cousin that you already loaned money to and he still hadn't paid you back, but he'll get you this next paycheck, he promises. What was the bomb song called? Hell March. The song is called Hell March. You want an Egg McMuffin? Fuck no. I haven't eaten McDonald's in 5 years. Unless you count, and I don't count this, their strawberry shakes. I do like McDonald's strawberry shakes, even though I know that they're not any part ice cream or none of that shit.
I just saw a thing on YouTube yesterday. There people are talking about like silicone or rubber food in the food now.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, yeah, no shit.
It's
You know what
like,
Knowledge
what
is?
the-
Knowledge is the best album ever written.
That's not
An old
true.
Punk rock band called Operation Ivy.
Mm.
If you don't know
I'm
what that
too, I'm too young to agree with
No.
that, but I see your perspective, and I have trouble pushing back very hard on it. But
it's
Smash, come on, man, Smash, Dookie.
Yeah. Green Day wouldn't exist without Operation Ivy.
It's got to be Smash. Smash is the best punk rock album of all time.
Yeah. Knowledge pretty much changed the whole game. That was the game player. That was the one right there. It defined what the field even was, so to say. All that came before were not the same.
Stop fagging out.
Thanks, Jeff.
I know like emotion. Oh, nice to meet you. My name is Christopher.
I'm not shaking your hand. What's my most traumatic experience? I don't know, but I know what yours is.
I just wanted to play that one more time before I get rid of it.
Fatty, on a scale from 1 to 10, how pumped are you that Trump won the election?
Pretty stoked, honestly. Yeah.
Pretty stoked?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, it's it's going to be great for my silver mines up here. We've got some good action.
I've decided that Fatty is a subversive genius because he'll say one thing, he'll be like, "Yeah, man, I totally agree. Jesus is Lord, and that's why Buddha said da 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 da." He'll like agree with you and then trip over into a completely opposite lane of thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be able to. You can't. I'm telling you guys.
Wait, what?
When you hold your God as an authority, you automatically lose the whole thing before you even come to the table.
See what I mean?
You're an incoherent mastermind, is what you are.
It's fucking just. This is like.
What? Oh yeah. Here's the
such
thing.
an easy concept. to grasp. I just can't see where you don't understand that when you come to the table and you say, my God is the authority and I'm here to teach people about it. When we're just having a conversation, okay, like this, or any conversation.
No, you're giving people an ultimatum. Hey, look, you can come willingly or I'll drag your ass.
Yeah, so that's a bad faith situation, brother. That's not
Why
a good
is that a
faith
bad
conversation.
faith that's been going on for
It's not a good
eons?
faith conversation, is all I'm saying. Right?
Yeah, but if somebody's asking, right? But that shouldn't be your position if you believe in a thing. Like if you honestly, sincerely,
Like when we're
truly
trying to figure out
believe in
what is truth. Like what is truth? That's a real fucking good.
So take the
good
thing
topic,
that you
bro.
apply. Take the thing that you believe in. So like in this case, let's say Jesus, right? Find out the thing that convinced you and use that on somebody else. Real
What about
simple.
Siamese Jesus, bro?
Do what?
What about Siamese Jesus?
What the? I have no idea what the hell that is.
That's Siamese
Yeah.
Jesus, bro. What about Siamese? Does he matter as much as the normal Jesus?
Fatty, you're cooked, man. You're cooked.
Are you saved, Slim?
I'm an atheist, right? Like
know.
no part of Jesus is going to be convincing to me. However,
exactly.
Okay. So then let's take my side of the thing, right? So as a Christian
Listen,
nationalist, I believe in force.
You're not grasping what I'm trying to ask you, brother. Is it possible that more than one God can exist?
Yeah, but God created them.
Okay, great.
Well,
at least you can say that other people and other gods are willing to. Other people are okay to worship whatever God they want, right?
No,
you're okay
because
with
it's
everybody burning in hell except for you. 99.9% of humanity is burning in hell because they don't believe in what you believe in.
No. You're going too far with this shit, right? Okay, let's say that your
Is it too far?
Your God says these are the rules, right?
How is
but
it
now
not too
let's say
far?
because what you're doing is basically building a world of just toleration of everything.
I'm binding myself
Does
on the rules.
Christianity support that? Do what?
I'm binding myself on the rules that are set forth for the game that I'm playing with this Christianity thing.
No, Fatty, you just want your own special rules.
In my way of my Christianity.
You're just
of all the different types of Christianity, right? Mine's going to be the one that says who burns in hell or not.
No, your
That's
version
a problem
of
Christians are
politics
doing, yeah.
is a secular version, which is your version of your own idea of religion, and you're trying to.
And your idea of your religion is what? Is your idea as well?
I don't have to tell you what I believe in.
But everybody gets to have that, right?
No.
Everybody's allowed to have that. I will fight for people to
You
have
can have
that.
whatever faith you want. That doesn't mean I need to construct some type of society around your lack of belief. That's ridiculous.
We're not basing all of society upon it. We're allowing everybody to equally exist in this society.
I already conceded
No,
you can have your own
opposed
faith,
that.
but
Yeah, that's not even the Amalekites. Were the Amalekites allowed
because you're a fucking nationalist that wants to make your version of your religion the declared religion and the declared way of doing things, right?
I think it goes to self-esteem manufacturing. You want to be the right box, the right check mark, the right faction that is the correct faction. And so you have to project your box of God onto everyone else, which I think is not good.
thanks for having me up, Flo. You guys have a good night.
No. Don't you abandon us, damn it.
Hey, thanks for joining.
All right, good night, man.
God isn't a cookie cutter.
Is everybody allowed to have their own faith?
No. People are not.
So you're a
allowed to
dictator.
believe
You're a
whatever the hell
fascist.
they want.
Sweet,
Nobody's
dude.
allowed to do whatever the hell they want. Stop this fantasy fucking bullshit world. Hold on. Can I take the most asinine, horrible thing that exists? Right? I don't know. Let's say. What is the most evil? Go ahead.
No name.
Hey, what's going on?
No name. You're not a porn bomber or anything, are you?
No, I'm just here to potentially have the conversation. That's all.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I appreciate it.
Here you go, fatty. can I believe that it is okay to take like children and basically toss them into fires, like have a big bonfire, right? And then also like go about
Bro,
within society and
We're
start.
not going to go to the extreme argument fallacy. Okay, that's just retarded.
It's not a fallacy. I'm asking
would
you,
ever
are there
argue for
limits?
that? Who would
Do
ever
limits
argue that that is an
exist?
okay situation?
Can I
Do
interject?
limits
quickly?
exist?
With a
This is
question?
the whole basis
Yeah,
of a
go ahead. You're gonna have to
That's why
charge
we're in
in there,
America.
bro.
We have regulations and laws, obviously. We're not going to play the
Especially-
extreme argument fallacy. This is
Uncle
bullshit.
Fatty, you've been bulldozing conversations for 3 hours now. Let's let No Name have a say.
No, I can start with a question. So like, either whoever can take it, Fatty or Joshua. Like, if there's we understand that basically there are three major religions, right? This is like, I'm just like leveling a playing field, right? Like random, like play the scenario out. If there were two only that existed, pick any of the two, right? Do you think that at some point throughout human history we'd be able to say, okay, like we think that this one is a little bit more true than the other? Do you think that that's possible, or do you think that couldn't be possible? Like if there's only two books instead of three?
Process of elimination sounds reasonable.
See, no,
Right, so,
I don't believe so. I believe it is inevitable for those two sides to eventually run into a conflict where they have to fight it out.
You don't know. So like I think conflict and fighting out is like taking it to a extreme, which is not a problem. But I think that that's not the only potential outcome. You know, like I think that like when I walk around every day, most people that I walk around and see, like we all kind of like generally understand that there's mad anomalies in the fucking condition that we're experiencing, but like no one can seem to solve the problem. But we're all caught up in this fucking like
Okay,
issue. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just very
let's
general.
try this. Is it the case that when Islam came about, that Christianity and Islam, basically had a lot of wars with each other?
So ultimately, I'm trying to get to you. I want to potentially introduce the idea to you that the fact that we're all arguing over, the fact that your argument is the way that it is, it would be described as speculative masonry because it doesn't exist. Like I don't know how we're gonna get there, but like
right. I don't believe it's the case that there's going to be
a specific reference. It's called Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike that specifically describes how they like a three religion system is going to be used to subjugate the minds of the people, because if there was only two or if there was only one, we'd be able to figure this out at some point, that one is probably be better to follow than the other. But the fact that there's like specifically three, and then the fact that like they all like reference each other but also vilify each other for reference and like uses this is a perpetual like holy drama script that is being played out.
I knew that I liked you, No Name.
If there's only two, we'd be able to figure this shit out already. You know, or there's one, but the fact that there's three is like a whole fucking.
But he
thing.
told us that was going to be how it was going to be, as well. So it's prophesied.
And
right, like there's a lot of like shit in the Bible that is very specific, but like they confuse us by like switching names to be titles, and like there's parts of the Bible where it's two people talking, but like it's written as one. It's fucking insane, right? Like the purpose is not for you to like argue right or wrong. The purpose of it is for you to be caught in the idea that like it's the dogmatic like carrot on the stick shit, you know. Like we need to get past this, like all love and respect. Like it's just necessary because like again, Uncle Fatty, I have no idea who any of you people are, but like it's just like we clearly are all looking for something deeper than what the fuck is going on. You know?
No. You're giving it a thought claim. Why? Why should we all sit at the table?
Well, the odd if you want to bring me to a destination, like I'm super.
No, he's trying to back you into a gotcha corner that's not there. The odd is because nobody is better off running around in circles.
So I can totally give you guys like something that you've never heard before that like it would probably blow your mind, but like I don't know how to explain it any other way. Yeah. So like I've been studying like Freemasonry and Hermetics for the past like 10 years, not 10 years, 10 months. And the two things that I found out that were like that's that, and it could be true, it could not be true, but like what sounds fucking insane to me is that like the two biggest secrets that no one knows is that like that black and white is all the status to and like religion and all this shit is meant to lock you in a two-dimensional allegory, and like America is not what the fuck they told us it was, and like Christopher Columbus did not come here prior to 1492. Like the two biggest secrets are that the black woman is the master mason, and this is what they won't tell you in the Shriners temples. They won't tell you this in the Freemasonry temples. And then two is that black people are indigenous to North America, and like it's the most important shit because this ties together the Free Larry Hoover movement. This ties together like Hermetics, Freemasonry, all the Jewish shit. It's all an allegory. It's all telling you a story, but they're confusing you, and it's all connected. But it literally is the most confusing mind.
How long would it take you to unfold that?
It would take me like a really long time, but I could I've been working on like a written documentary to kind of explain it. But I can give you like specific sites and sources.
So I guess I'm interested in hearing your explanation, but right now it sounds like that'd be an entire shift in direction. But I'm probably not going to be doing the panel a lot longer. If you're still around in half an hour and you feel like having an audience of one, I'd be interested in recording it and hearing what you got to say. And then if it turns into something, it does. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Sure.
But go ahead, guys.
Yeah,
and Plumpy, real quick, Plumpy, I got your next thing. Hallelujah.
I'm getting too much money.
He says, what is your answer on the priest panel idea? Yeah, I'd love to do that anytime. And if you want to set up something specifically, my email is linked in the about tab of the channel page.
I'll hit your email. Sorry for the interruption, but I appreciate what you guys both had to say, but I know that this is something that is described as speculative masonry. Like you're arguing over someone else's thought point that you can't confirm or deny because it's all written stories. So it gets really tricky, but we're all being subjugated. This is called the Great Subjugation. But please continue.
I'm 100% with that. I don't know about where you ended it with the black woman and Native Americans, but I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, I could totally give you basically they tell you black and white are statuses under law when they confuse you by genotype and phenotype when how do you say Biggie wasn't fucking African, Michael Jackson wasn't African, it's all tied together, and it's deep, but I'll shut the fuck up now.
If we're all subjugated to it, then it's actually irrelevant.
Because it explains most, if not all, the anomalies within the condition that we're all experiencing right now. You know what I'm saying? We're all subject to it. American. We all pay taxes and shit, and our life pretty much sucks. But we're paying for plastic is in the food. It's mad obvious. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, and that stuff. But if we're all subject to it, then it's a level playing field.
Is that ultimately is that we perpetually reincarnate for all eternity, and we're here on a for a specific reason, but they have you and me paying fucking life insurance.
And it's a level playing field. It's a level playing field for us. We're all on the same shit level. They're not playing this. They're not playing. They understand the paradigm, so they're not actually involved in it.
So
it's a level playing field, and it doesn't matter. They know what's going on.
What kind of Masonics did you say it was?
So ultimately, if I can make it into one sentence, so everyone is being trapped under a two-dimensional paradigm. This is your black, white, God, devil, hero, villain allegory, right? Dualistic paradigm. So we're caught in that paradigm to distract us from who the enemy really is. So basically the true people causing villainy on earth are the black nobility of Europe and Spain, and the dirty Moors and aka the black conquistadors. They just kind of changed their name throughout history and throughout time, but these are dark-skinned melanated people that are fucking evil, and we're presented black and white as statuses to trick you from understanding that there could be fucking dark-skinned people on earth causing fucking tyranny.
This is a new one.
Yeah, I know it's fucking crazy.
I've not heard that. I've not heard that.
So if you look up, if you can just Google the Sal Eater of Bern as an example of a statue. So blackface is not what you think it is. Blackface is
Okay.
them putting it in the public domain, trying to tell you who the fuck is up to the evil shit. I can put it in the back chat too.
Right, yeah, like when
those
Justin
practicing evil
when Justin
connected to
Trudeau
the
put
Lord.
his,
You're
when
saying
he was
because they
going
were
to
from
the
Spain?
blackface.
What race are you? Just out of curiosity, by the way.
Like,
Not that it really matters. But
I mean, so like race is also a part of the dogma that they trap us in. I mean, I would identify as like someone who's native to North America. Like I was born in New York.
I think what he was getting at is your skin melanated?
Oh yeah. You would call me black or whatever, but black and white is like a part of the fucking trick, you know. So I just try not to.
I don't disagree. The reason I ask is because some of the things you said are received easier with that caveat.
yeah.
I come out and say that,
no.
or Flo comes out and says that, then it's a different thing, isn't it? And it goes on.
And by the way, it's the total opposite of the last narrative that we heard 2 weeks ago, or what, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Nah, I know my voice probably sounds white. It just fucking my balls have been dropped or something. I don't know.
You've managed to articulate very well something that I've. You've articulated that so much better than I have. I've been studying this shit for 11 years.
It's meant to subjugate you. It's meant to be confusing. It's meant to like keep you in the perpetual silence forever.
I'm constantly telling people it's this Freemasonic black-white paradigm. Basically.
So if Biggie was an African, what would he be considered actually?
So his chief name, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, was Chief Sitting Bull. So essentially, you guys understand the Christopher Columbus 1492 story, right?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm starting a new stream, and we're just gonna do this over here.
Okay.
Because you sound like you're about to cook, and I want you to have the floor. Who's here? All right, I'm not going to drop the link for the public. I will put the link to join StreamYard backstage, but originally my thought was to just have No Name over, and so because I want you to be able to just kind of wheel and deal. So Uncle Fatty, and the rest, if y'all get noisy and contribute too much, I'm going to just start dropping people off.
Respect.
No insult intended to any of that. But everybody in the audience, thank you for watching. You will be redirected to the new stream over on the Powder Dusty, which is my other channel.
Cool.
And I just went live over there. Okay, that redirection is